ADCs. Curious that we do see a lot of interesting bands coming out, a lot of necessarily solo targeted bands, right? You see the LeBlanc, the Irelia, the Riven, solo laner strong bands, which is interesting because for me, Riven being banned, it is a good pick for the side of SK in terms of Maple Shade, but solo lane has shown a lot of flexibility with their picks, even just the split, three different champions over the course of their three games against Collective Odyssey in week one.
Yeah, really going to be keeping a close eye on that Riven this series, in particular, Maple Shade and Solo Lane, both people willing to bust that champion on out. But Muscle, he's going to lock on in that Kindred here for the second rotation coming through on the blue side. Was something that he's been playing a lot of in solo queue. Didn't bust it out last week, but we're going to be seeing it here now. And that points me towards maybe a little bit more of an AP champ for Stop Aim Me in the mid lane. They actually played the Diana mid last week. So definitely a team that is willing to bust out some unconventional mid laners. Diana on the ban list here, so not going to come through this time. But it is going to be the Wukong, presumably for solo lane and not for Stop Aim Me.
Yeah, the Wukong pick is interesting for me here, just because like one, we're picking it really early, but two, this signals to me that SPT they're really looking for a really strong team fighting composition, right? Like you have the Kindred ultimate, you have Lambsword Split, you have the Encore through Seraphine, and Wukong Cyclone is synonymous with both being an engage and disengage tool. It's a really multifunctional champion. And we will see SK respond with the Mordekaiser. Did receive some pretty large buffs this patch, has been an absolute menace on the Rift, but I do believe the matchup is still Wukong favored early on, so it's going to be up to Maple Shade to make sure that they're not bleeding out too much here. One pick that we didn't really get to talk about here is mostly picking up the Trundle here. I'm assuming it's going to be Trundle jungle, but we've kind of seen a resurgence of them for the longest time this entire season. These champions that don't take multi-creep camps very efficiently, they've kind of got forced out, and now that we're seeing a return to a gank heavy meta, you're seeing your Xin Zhao's, your Diana's more. Trundle's really seen a huge resurgence as of late.
Yeah, definitely a really powerful pick coming out of the jungle there. Can also be flexed up to top lane in particular situations. Today's support Trundle seem to be pretty largely behind us, but could potentially be something to be on the lookout for as well. In particular, up against this Kindred, should really be at least a little bit at risk of getting invaded on. I'm losing a couple of camps, but should at the very least be able to escape for itself. Is a very self-sufficient pick. Even if you don't get the priority in those lanes, you can use the frozen domain for the movement speed. You can use the pillar to slow down your opposition, and you can at least guarantee that you're going to be able to get yourself out of there. Also clears at very high HP, so unlikely to get caught out at a low total and burst it on out.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that SPT, Sparta, they did respond with the Wukong, having the ability to, you know, more or less look to position him how you want in a team fight. That being said, we are going to end up seeing the Kai'Sa locked in here, or hovered at least for SK. I really like this pick from them. It enables them to be a highly mobile and efficient team on the Rift, being able to reposition with the Void Assault, being able to essentially have the amount of burst damage that you need to take out these squishy backliners from Sparta. So it does look like they're going to pick up the Kai'Sa, and the Vayne is going to get hovered here by Sparta. This is the champion that we've kind of been starting to see a bit more get picked up. What do you think of this, Gordo?
Yeah, I think it definitely has its applications if you can pick it into compositions that don't have the super powerful hard engage. If you can actually kite with the Vayne, it's a lot stronger, but instead it looks like it is going to be the Aphelios here. This in particular I really like up against the Kai'Sa. Should have a range advantage with pretty much all of the guns, not even just the Calibrum there, and should be looking to bully onto this Kai'Sa along with presumably the Seraphine, unless it is going to be coming through in the mid lane. We'll find that out for sure here as Sparta locks in their last pick of the draft. But assuming that it's a Aphelios Seraphine, this should really bring a lot of pressure to put on the Kai'Sa. But that's a Blitzcrank being hovered. It's going to be Leona instead, but Leona Aphelios even more so than the Seraphine Aphelios. Going to be looking to get onto this Kai'Sa and really punish for blind picking that short range 80 carry.
Yeah, and now it's going to be SK's decision. Do they want to send? Well, actually, it's not their decision. They're forced to kind of send the Karma into the mid lane here, or into the support role. Excuse me. I guess they could have gone mid, but they are going to hover the Victor here. This is a really great scaling mid laner. We've seen him time and time and again. being able to continuously hit the ability evolutions for his passive, eventually scaling into this late game monstrosity with really great zoning tools. That being said, Sparta with the Aphelios, I mean, Mr. 200 years himself, they have a really large range advantage, and once Muscle is able to hit those 4 marks on their passive, they're going to be able to get that range increase and become that much more lethal of a threat. So I think the Victor is a really good way to round out the composition of SK, and definitely going to help make up for some of that range that they were lacking initially.
Yeah, absolutely here, and that's gonna be some range that they really need to pick up for themselves here, because they're gonna find themselves having a tough time really getting in for a lot of fights up against Sparta in this draft, because they don't really have a lot of those super hard engaged tools. Their frontliners are Trundle and Mordekaiser. They don't really have, you know, those big dashes in the kit. They don't have the big AoE CC abilities to really stop the enemy in their tracks and get your engage going. They don't even really have a lot of ways to enable the dive coming through from the Kaisa either. So they're going to need to either bait Sparta to come into them to actually take the fights that they want to take, or they're going to need something like this Victor to just poke them on out and go for some kind of siege.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know how well you can siege into an Aphelios, assuming that we're cycling weapons properly. But it's going to really be, I would expect this game to be relatively bloody. Both top laners will want to be scrappy. They don't necessarily want to just kind of sit around and scale. So as far as what we expect to see within the early game pressure here, I expect to see a lot of action in top lane. Like, I expect to see both junglers up there, and seeing 2v2s, 3v3s coming out from that lane.
Yeah, and whichever team gets their top laner ahead is really going to have that lead snowball over to the other lanes a lot more efficiently than maybe in your average game here, as we know that both Wukong and Mordekaiser can really take over these games. Mordekaiser, a little bit more so in the side lane, can really, if he gets to a point where he can 1v1 anyone else on Sparta, then he's going to be pretty much unstoppable, and then that issue of, you know, getting the engages off doesn't really matter as much anymore, because he can just pull 2 or 3 people towards him all over the map at any point. On the other side, though, Sparta, Wukong is their primary engage source, and going in with the Seraphine to get the range extensions on Encore, with the Leona throwing out Solar Flare to enable those engages as well. If Wukong is powerful, if Wukong is dishing out a whole bunch of damage and surviving damage in turn through getting something early like a Sterix, then he's also going to be a big difference maker in this game.
Yeah, and again, like I'll kind of exemplify. Like, I really like the pickup of Mordekaiser here for the side of SK. Right now, Sparta, they just have a relatively straightforward, like, they want a front to back team fight. They want to be having these 4v4s, these 5v5s, just based on their composition alone. And Mordekaiser does such a good job of interrupting that with the Death Realm available to him. So it'll make it really interesting when these neutral objectives come up. And I think what we're going to be seeing is a strange focus on heralds this game, which isn't something that I normally would ever say, but I think those will be the 2 heralds that can spawn on the Rift this game are going to be a much higher priority than they normally would be.
Yeah, gonna go along with that top priority. Another little interaction to keep an eye on this game, I certainly hope I'm correct about this, is Mordekaiser can ulti Kindred to take her out of the Lamb's Respite. So when a low HP target on Sparta does appear and is at risk of getting saved by that Kindred ultimate, Mordekaiser can really nullify that in an instant to just go and finish off that champion. And that's actually going to be a really powerful interaction as well, because once Mordekaiser is able to do that, he does steal away a whole bunch of stats and emerge all the more powerful. So really excited to see if SK is going to be able to make that combo work itself out this game. Would be really good to both nullify a super powerful ultimate coming through from Sparta and beef up your frontliner all in one big swoop.
Yeah, 100%. And we didn't really get to talk about it too much since the rest of Champions Select went relatively quickly, but SK did ban the Sylas, which if I were Sparta, I 100% would have wanted to have picked up. And for those of you who aren't aware in chat and watching us, if Sylas takes Mordekaiser ult and ult someone else while Mordekaiser has them in the Death Realm, if they're in the same area, that can turn into a 2v2. It's a really niche interaction, but it's a really funny one when it does happen. So we won't see it this game. Probably won't see it this series, but there is a chance.
Yeah, there is only one Death Realm. You got to share it if that is what it ends up coming down to. So as you said, yeah, those 2v2s really would be something powerful for Sparta if they were able to execute on it. And then just going to be keeping an eye on SK as well. They've got this Karma Kaisa bottom lane. Not a lot of hard engage, going to be looking mainly to survive here. I want to see if Muscle actually does kind of try to one-up more sleep here. And while we are expecting everybody to go up towards that top side, it would be possible to instead pivot towards bottom, try to get this Kaisa and Karma behind early on, because that would be really rough up against a Boost and Cathaldus, because these guys should be able to run away with the bottom lane if they do get an early lead. Aphelios is actually super powerful in the 2v2 now, especially when ahead in items after the changes to the lethality that he gains from his passive and how he synergizes with lethality when he actually picks it up. And we know that Boost is the caliber of player who's going to be able to do that. He's gotten a lot of all-pro votes in a lot of different leagues over the last couple of years, and is really somebody I'm going to be keeping my eye on from Sparta in particular.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we have top lane and bot lane both want to get a lead and try to snowball what they can do in the form of the Kaisa, the Aphelios, the Wukong, and the Mordekaiser. The mid lane matchup, they just want to sit tight and look to try to get as much farm as they can. So looking for aggressive teleports, making plays across the map. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 4 or 5 people in bot lane within the first 6-7 minutes.
All right, and with that, we're going to throw it to a quick break while we get loaded on up into Game 1, but do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back here with Game 1 of Sparta taking on SK. Welcome back, everybody. It's tonight's broadcast of Week 2 of the Aegis Defenders League. Matchup tonight will be Sparta facing off up against ASK. Both of these guys are sitting at 1-0 in the standings already. Going to be looking to advance up to 2-0, which will certainly be at least tied for the top of their group here. Trajan, it looks like not going to be anything too fancy coming out of the level 1 here. Everybody going for some spreads here. XD Me does appear to be positioning for a potential delayed invade, but it's just hanging out in the pink brush for the time being.
Yeah, just a pretty standard start for most teams. I would expect it. Neither of them want to really invade into the other. Sparta, they have the Leona, they have the Seraphine, but you don't really want to invade into a Karma Kaisa, right? That being said, as we kind of take a look at things, Reeve on the Kaisa here has opted to take Fleet Footwork instead of Halo Blade, so opting for a much safer and healthier route for the laning phase, knowing that Boost and Cathodus on this Leona are going to be really aggressive and look to kind of force them under turret and take over the spot lane.
Yeah, and we'll see if they are able to actually get any advantage off of that early on. It is also going to be the Ignite and Heal up against the Cleanse and Exhaust on the side of SK, so we can see that they really are aware of the position their bottom lane is in here. They have opted, teched themselves to make sure that they're going to be able to survive as well as possible. But that just makes it all the more possible that if they do fall behind, that really is going to hurt quite a bit. Now you can see Stop Aim Me does get the first wave down a little bit earlier. He's going for a little bit of poke onto Alexander there in the mid lane.
Yeah, looking to just kind of pressure a level 2 out from this Victor, get as much advantage as you can to try to get crab priority. And in the meanwhile, in the top lane, Soul Lane, taking a little bit of an aggressive trade in there. Unfortunately, the Stone Skin not going to do that well against Maple Shade, who on the Mordekaiser will be doing almost exclusively magic damage.
Yeah, and also want to keep an eye on how the coin flip ends up going here for Kindred, as this is how always the 3-minute mark ends up going for Kindred players here. You either get the bot crab or the top crab marked. You have no control over which one it is going to be, but getting off to the first mark is always going to be a huge benefit here. Muscle this time around going to be crossing his fingers, hoping for the bot lane crab. We'll see how that does end up going, though. If it's up on top side, then more sleep certainly going to be the one more in the advantage as a result.
Yeah, both junglers are going to opt to start on their respective blue buffs, so they will be not seeing each other too much in the jungle, which if you're Muscle and more sleep, honestly, you're both pretty happy about that. Electing more or less to trade 1-for-1 on the Scuttle Crabs, and we do see here that Reeve and Alexander know what side that Muscle did start on, and they're going to place their vision down accordingly at about the time that Kindred might want to look for a gank. Tribrush remains unwarded though, so there is the possibility of that as we see laners start to ding their level 3s here. And it does look like Muscle's going to have a little bit of luck, as we do see the bot scuttle here is going to be picked up, and Soul Lane is, again, just Maple Shade and him are going to be exchanging all of these blows back and forth.
Yeah, it's outskilled right there, Trajan. As
but look at this collapse.
It's actually going to be contested here. More Sleep is coming down from the top side, going to force Muscle to flash right away, and they might even be able to get the first blood down onto him here. He's going to get stunned up by the gravity well, will end up going down. Now Boost of Success is going to be chasing down XDMe, going to be able to pick up that trade kill here, but he is outnumbered. He's getting chased on down. Cathalis and Boost both going to fall on down, giving over Alexander 2 more kills. He's going to go up to a triple kill here. This Victor skyrocketed ahead of the map, and that is going to be a huge advantage for SK.
Yeah, and huge props to SK for that play there. They understood what they were looking to do. Alexander, because he was able to get pressured in so much earlier on that level 1 and level 2 from stop on the Seraphine, he was able to essentially build up a wave and then force a crash when they hit level 3 and level 4, so that by the time Scuttle spawned, he had priority in his lane and could look to rotate down. And More Sleep wisely was had taken his red buff, went to the Raptors, and saw that Kindred's mark had spawned on the bot Scuttle. So with that priority, they were able to force a essentially a 4-man collapse in what was a 3v4 for the longest time.
Yeah, and for Alexander, this is just the best champion to be getting those 3 early kills on. Going to give him so much 1v1 power up against this Seraphine, and also going to give him so many stacks of his passive towards getting that first evolution here. Should be able to upgrade that laser first and foremost, incredibly earlier than you would expect, as he's just gotten all the stacks right away.
He has it already. He had an E-Evolve at 4 minutes. He gets 25 stacks per kill or assist, and he has 38 CS now, so he's gotten the first upgrade and is already a tenth of the way, almost a quarter of the way to getting the second upgrade. So that is an absolutely massive lead that SK's been able to get, let alone the gold differential that was able to be picked up by them, sitting at only about 700 gold up, and the entire lead is going to be on Alexander.
Maple Shade going to get some nice harass there on the solo lane, but this is the greatest start that SK could have hoped for there. They didn't actually end up getting the Scuttle Crab roll that they that would have favored them, but they make their own luck there. They go and contest up against Muscle. They deny him the stack, and they get 3 kills into the pocket of Alexander to boot. Want to see how they're going to be able to play and pivot up around this mid lane now. You can already see the push is always going to favor Alexander now, and that's going to give so much freedom to More Sleep to be able to take whatever he wants, like this dragon that he's going to start up right here and now.
Yeah, they're already on it. They've been on it, and it's going to be a free Cloud Dragon going over to the side of SK here. First Drake down. We're going to see an Ocean Dragon. It's going to be the second one that will spawn this game. So we're either going to be looking at an Infernal or a Mountain Soul, and both of those drifts are going to be quite favorable for either team. They're going to be happy to see them. One of the things too to kind of mention is that because Alexander will always have mid lane priority, it's going to be incredibly hard for Muscle to even try to move around this map right now, because the Victor can just roam with More Sleep on the Trundle, and it's going to be incredibly oppressive. So I would be really looking to see if they look to try to invade, but we have some action in mid lane right now.
Yeah, it's going to be Alexander getting engaged on here by the side of Muscle. They want to get the trade back on there, and that's going to be a lot of shutdown gold going over into the pocket of this Kindred. A nice response from the side of Sparta, trying to get themselves a little bit more gold and trying to make sure that Stop AMB is going to be able to have some degree of success in the mid lane, will at least be able to farm it out, will at least be able to shove in this wave.
Yeah, and really nicely too, the kill going over to the Kindred is actually better than going over the Seraphine, in my opinion. Like, being able to get that extra gold, accelerate your way to either Kraken Slayer or Gale Force, means that Kindred will be able to get online that much faster here. We already see she's picked up 1 mark. I don't know if she had marked Alexander. I don't think she did. So we're still probably only on 1 mark, but again, that 4 mark spike is going to be right around the corner. So it is something that both teams have to be aware of, as it is a pseudo spike without having to really think about it.
Yeah, definitely. We can see Alexander working on towards his mythic item. Should have it completed fairly well ahead of the curve here soon enough. Not quite there yet. Cathalda's going to clear out some of the vision that Alex has picked up for himself, but Alex going to come on over. He knows how strong he is, can just walk into the enemy jungle, clear away pink boards like that, does not have to fear for his life at all, knows that he has More Sleep over on his own side of the jungle, and would be more than willing to take any fights that come his way while he's over there.
And we see here that Maple Shade opting to itemize pretty defensive. Actually, both top laners are itemizing relatively defensively. Doran, Shield, and Phage coming out for solo lane, so any trades that he takes, he'll be regenerating quite a bit of health, especially with that Stone Skin passive. And then Maple Shade on the other side picked up the Bramble Vest, has the Amp Tome and a Cloth Armor, might be looking to pick up an early Seeker's Arm Guard. So they're both kind of content, hitting each other as much as they can and regenerating the health that they'll lose in these trades.
Yeah, certainly are there. It's not going to be another dragon for about 2 minutes or so. SK fully in control over that side of the map for when it does end up happening. You can see another scuttle is going to be spawning on the bottom side, and that's just bad news and bad news for the side of Sparta. Is it should be really tough for them to get into that bottom side to get muscle any of those scuttlers right now. As you can see, there's 2 vision wards there already. Alexander going to have the push at pretty much all times. And now we look at the top lane, solo lane, going to actually be forced to ulti there. Just found himself in a unfortunate situation up against Maple Shade. Wants to make sure that he can at least produce a little distance for himself. But that means he should be a little in danger in the one-on-one. And now we can see Boost also taking a whole bunch of harassment down in this bottom lane. Thalda's coming on in for the engage, but it is going to be Maple Shade responding in turn with the teleport. Muscle is here as well. Looks like they will end up just backing on away. SK ends up committing the teleport for nothing, although Muscle does get pulled back on in by the Mordekaiser. He does have the Dance of Arrows to just keep himself at a distance, but now has to worry about the dive actually coming on across. Maple Shade is coming around on the other side. They have Lamb's Respite. There's no way SK can really make this happen, you gotta believe. So Maple Shade just going to end up going in for the recall here. More Sleep is covering his lane in the top lane. Getting a little bit of an engage onto solo lane, but just going to be able to back away.
Yeah, and I think importantly, what we can take away from that too is the coordination from SK in that play was incredible, right? So More Sleep was on that Rift Herald for the longest time, solo clearing it by himself, but Sparta just didn't know, they had no vision on that at all. They had no idea that he was on it. So this TP from Maple Shade, while on paper, it looked like it didn't accomplish much. At the end of the day, solo lane wasn't able to get anything, and now his wave is slow pushing into Maple Shade. So this is going to be an optimal lane setup for the top laner for SK. They are also able to get a free Rift Herald, which we talked about in the pregame a bit, and we see Dragon's going to be spawning in 30 seconds, and Kindred's Mark is on Grump. It's in a really awkward spot, so Muscle's having a really hard time getting these marks off the ground right now.
Yeah, it really is. The bot lane just keeps getting pushed on in. The jungler is always over on that side when it needs to be. More Sleep is going to take that ground for himself right here and now. Muscle gets spotted out on the ward. Encore comes on across for Stop Aim Me, but doesn't look like it's actually going to be able to lock down Alexander. He does just flash away from that one. So once again, Muscle just finds himself on the bottom side of the map with really nothing to do, with really very little to take. Dragon is spawning here, but this is not a fight that ends up favoring SPT. You got to believe that SK are going to be the ones that pick this one up as well.
Yeah, and they just burnt Encore in the mid lane. It got Alexander's flash out, but he still has the Graviton Storm available, and the top lane Cyclone's going to come down here.
Yeah, solo lane caught Maple Shade there while he was under the turret, but what about the one-on-one that's going to be flashed away from getting the clone pulled on in? Maple Shade has thrown on down the Death Realm as well, so solo lane can't get too far away, but Maple Shade can't keep the dive going. Now here comes an engage from Liliana in the bottom lane, a nice lockdown onto 2 targets, boost of success, zeroes out Alexander before he can get his full combo down. No Chaos Storm used in this fight at all. That means it is actually going to favor Sparta. They should be able to pick themselves up their first dragon of the game, and More Sleep now is on the wrong side of dodge, getting chased on down by Stop Aim Me. A nice smite comes on across to get a little bit more HP, though. The Frozen Domain giving so much attack speed, but Stop Aim Me going to be able to turn it around with the high notes, and now XD Me out in the wrong area as well. Boost of Success catches him out. Flash Cone going to get that karma to safety, but a nice win for the side of Sparta. They get 2 kills and a dragon while they were behind in the bottom side.
Yeah, and that Ocean Dragon's just absolutely critical for them. Being able to get that extra regen is absolutely massive. Muscle here able to pick up another mark up in the top side onto the Raptors of SK here. And that fight was incredible. It was really split from SK. Sparta had a really good opportunity to look for the flank. Cathaldus landed a beautiful solar flare and timed up with Boost's ultimate on the Cephalios. Just meant that there was a lot of free damage coming down, and the Ocean Dragon, it slows you. It's really, really difficult to get away from that dragon once it's been started. So once you kind of start it as SK, you're committed to trying to finish it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but meanwhile, here in the top lane, we have some more action.
Yeah, 3-man squad coming on into Maple Shade. They know that the Death Realm is still on cooldown, so he's not going to be able to turn that into a one-on-one. Going to escape with his life, though. Alexander blows the teleport to protect his top laner. Now potentially looking for the fight. Does still have access to the Chaos Storm. Didn't use it in the last fight. There's another teleport here blown from Stop Aim Me to make sure that he's able to support his teammates. Looks like everybody going to end up surviving in this topside play. 2 teleports expended, but nobody ends up going down.
Yeah, and both teams just want to keep the gas going. They want to keep the pedal on the metal for them here. We see the Herald's going to be summoned to the bot lane. More Sleep's going to potentially go on to boost here, it looks like.
Yeah, going for the one-on-one up against Boost here. He should not be able to take that even with the white gun already set on up. Those chakrams not quite dishing out enough at this stage of the game. And that's the ultimate landed for Reef. He flashes, he cleanses, but he can't get the vision to be able to go for the killer instinct. And Boost's success, he just walks on away.
That was incredible.
He's got to heal, right? He was going for the movement speed to try to get some vision on to boost his success. So
it had to have been that. But first hurt of the game will fall in favor of SK there. Gold is within a 1,000 gold distance here, so it's all right.
It's contagious, Trajan. You gotta avert your eyes for a couple of minutes, make sure nobody sees what's going on the screen for a couple of seconds. As Stop Me does use the encore there. Isn't able to pick up anything onto Alexander, but isn't going to have too big of ramifications for that mid lane. They'll just go right back to wave clearing.
Yeah, not too massive at all. Stop was just they wanted to send the regards to Reef here, but here we go. Maple Shade pulls Soul Lane into the death realm.
Yeah, going for the 1v1 here. The Cyclone going to come on across. Cathaldus is here for the backup once that Death Realm does end, and it does. Not going to land the Zenith Blade, though. Maple Shade should be able to just walk on out of here. Going to be a trade of ultimates. And Cathaldus also going to waste a little bit of time just walking up into this top side to protect Wukong when nothing can really be done.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, even if that Zenith Blade had landed, I don't think you want to take that fight. Leona and Wukong without Cyclone, I don't think you can kill Maple Shade. Look at his build. He has the Leeching Lair. He has the Bramble Vest, has an extra cloth armor in addition to the Doran Shield, not on top of it, including the plated steel caps he's finished. Like, this Wukong doesn't do a whole lot to him right now, and it looks like with no boots coming out for Soul Lane so far, and we see a Negatron cloak and that Hearthbound axe, it looks like he's looking to maybe go Wit's End first item.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup. Should give him some magic resist to take on that Mordekaiser, and does synergize with the attack speed that Wukong gets from that E. So, as well as actually getting you to that proc faster when you're getting attacks from the decoy as well. So we definitely see some benefits from it on the Wukong here. Interesting to rush though. We'll see how he does actually end up rounding out that build.
Yeah, the more I think about it though, Gordo, the more I actually like this. We're going to see the second Herald picked up here. So again, both Heralds picked up relatively quickly by both teams on their spawns here. But a lot of the damage for SK is actually magic damage, right? You've got the Karma, Victor, and Mordekaiser, obviously. But then the Subjugate from More Sleep on this Trundle, that's magic damage. And then Kaisa's passive, while not a ton, is still magic damage. So it's definitely not the worst thought to come out here, and especially if you're looking to side lane and trade into Maple Shade a lot more aggressively. That's just an item that'll help enable it a bit more. But as we kind of transition into the mid game here, we see that it is in fact going to be a Mountain Soul. 20 seconds on the Dragon. 4 members from the side of SK are looking to converge down on this, but there will be the TP from Maple Shade that's going to be burnt, so it will be a 5v3 currently in the river, as we see Aphelios and Soul Lane are not with them quite yet.
That was a fat pillar from More Sleep there. Gets it right in the middle of 3 people. Forces Stop Aim Me to expend the flash. Make sure he doesn't get caught out on the wrong side of that pillar. And that's enough for SK to start on up this Dragon. They feel like they are favored in the situation. And it looks like SPT, they just agree. They're going to give that one over to the side of SK, but they are going to pop down their Rift Herald in this mid lane, going to try to trade it and make sure they can at least open up the map a little more. They are going to complete that one. But now here comes the flank from More Sleep. Another big pillar, this time on a Stop Aim Me. Once again, he does not have access to the flash. He goes into the Death Realm. He's in a 1v1 up against Mordekaiser. But now look at the AoE damage from Boost Success. He has the Infernum ultimate, melts through 2 with that one. And now Reeve is going to be chased on down as well. The Flamethrower doing so much work here for the side of Boost. Muscle going to finish off Maple Shade, who was not able to finish off the 1v1 up against Stop Aim Me. It's a 4-for-0 fight in favor of Sparta. They find their moment here. Oh, and they almost find Alexander, but he does manage to get the escape out here. But Sparta, they're going to get way more than they bargained for here. They just wanted the outer turret in mid lane, but they're going to get so much more.
Yeah, and the initial engage didn't look awful from SK, where More Sleep had landed a good pillar, was able to zone Stop Aim Me out on the Seraphine. Maple Shade was able to pull her into the Death Realm, but wasn't able to kill her in the Death Realm. Solo Lane was able to find a really good flank and get a 3-person Cyclone, forcing them out of the fight and killing the ones who were already low. And Boost was largely untouched that fight on the Aphelios, so he was free hitting as much as that he wanted, and we kind of got to see that range disparity really come into effect there, right? Reeve on this Kaisa does a lot of burst damage, but doesn't have the ability to really get too close to Sparta's composition, especially when you have a Leona there. So really well played from Sparta, and they're gonna just kind of reap the rewards from that now. Going to shoot up almost about 2,500 gold here. Baron's going to be spawning in just under a minute, and I don't think they really need to look to pressure that. They can just kind of take this game slow, push their lead, and look to get the rest of these outer turrets away from SK.
Yeah, definitely. Here, the side of SK, they really don't want to be taking these 5v5 team fights now at this point. They just do not have the composition to be able to deal with Sparta's team fighting power. Even if they do take one of those big AoE ultimates out of the fight with the Mordekaiser ultimate, the remainder are still going to be able to team fight pretty effectively, and there's just not quite enough real engage power to catch out anybody else. But Stop Aim Me is going to get a little bit caught here by More Sleep. Doesn't really have anywhere to go from a nicely placed pillar from More Sleep there, and that means another kill going to go over to the side of Alexander.
Yeah, really, again, these, like, More Sleep's just been really on fire with these pillars this game, having some really, really great ones. Almost guaranteeing that it's either going to be a summoner spell, a kill, or looking to be proactive with them, right? And when you're on a composition that doesn't have a ton of engage, that's really what you want to be doing. Right now, if you're SK, though, I think, and what they're doing is correct. They're looking
Alexander.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he just gets 1v1'd by Muscle there. That's the Creeping Dread coming on across, or Mounting Dread, as I believe it's called. As all the stacks just end up coming on through, Alexander tries to flash away. Dance of Arrows closes up that gap, along with a flash of Muscle's own. He gets the solo kill there up against this Fed Victor.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, the Muscle decided to go the Kraken Slayer, which does an insane amount of burst damage on this Kindred, and it scales really well into the late game. Plus, it's a the extra attack speed you get just means that you're going to scale as an ADC, not as a skirmisher, right? So your late game scaling is significantly better as you complete more and more items. But if I'm SK right now, you really need to be just looking to try to get as much vision as you can over these objectives and set up for them early. You want to force Sparta to come into you. When that happens, that's when you are going to be able to shine the strongest right here. A lot of the fights and these skirmishes that SK have been losing have been because they've been trying to be the aggressors. They've been trying to be the ones that start these fights. They need to be the ones that finish them. They don't need to start them. Sparta needs to be the one wants to be the ones that start them, and that's how both these compositions really need to play. But more so than that, SK, honestly, they just really want to, as we kind of mentioned, avoid these large 4v4s, 5v5s. They want to try to look for these split pushes. They want to catch solo lane out by themselves with 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, really interesting build coming out of Boost's success on the Aphelios as well. Going for the Hurricane second, a little more of an old school Aphelios build. We see a lot more Collector these days, but this one going to enable him to fire off those additional voltage, should allow him, very importantly, to cycle through weapons a lot faster. So curious to see how they're able to make advantage out of that on the side of Sparta. As this game continues to go on, your next fight should be over this 4th dragon spawning in just about 20 seconds.
Yeah, and it does look like SK is going to try to be the aggressors again.
Yeah, that's going to be some CC coming on across onto More Sleep, but he is going to be able to get the disengage with the Frozen Domain. These are the kind of fights that SK would prefer. They want to try to get the opposing side, the funnel, into that little choke, chasing down the Trundle. Maybe they can be able to find their moment there. Solo lane is up on the top side, though, does have access to the teleport. Dragon going to be started off here by the side of Sparta, and More Sleep, he's all alone and getting zoned off. It looks like SK, they're just not going to be able to get back into this Dragon here. Solo lane finding Alexander in the jungle, now getting collapsed on here. He's in a 1 versus 3 reap, going to flash forward, going to try to solo him out. Alexander going to be able to finish off the kill with that Chaos Storm, and now with some positioning over Dragon with a 5 versus 4 on the map. SK feels a little bit better here, but they really did expend a lot to get that kill, and now Sparta are coming on up, trying to get something back. The teleport going to be expended in the top side. It does look like SK are going to be able to disengage.
Yeah, it's really just, I'm not going to say tragic, but if you look at what SK did, they realized that they couldn't contest this dragon. They got forced off of it. More Sleep wasn't able to be there, and then they did exactly what they needed to do, right? Solo lane came down from top lane after having taken that top tier 1. They knew he was going to be in that jungle, and Alexander able to buy enough time for Reeve and the rest of their team to kind of respond and pick off the the split pusher. But they aren't able to get much more off of that at this point, and what they really need to be looking to do if they're them is forcing pressure more so into the top and mid lane, right? These tier 1s are still up. They can't effectively push into Sparta's jungle or even look to think about being semi-aggressive unless those turrets are taken.
Yeah. See, Maple Shade was waiting in that mid lane there, hoping that Boost ended up pushing a little bit too far so he could throw the Death Realm onto him. These are the kind of picks that SK want to be able to make, but you can see it very nicely played by Boost there, not buying into it, not pushing up beyond his means. They know that Sparta already have the tools to be able to win this game. They just need to continue to execute correctly. They need to wait for the objectives that they can team fight over. And while they're split up, they need to make sure they aren't playing too aggressively.
Yep, and we kind of see here everyone's finishing up, has finished their mythics. We're starting to see the second items come in here from everyone, and it does look like Vorsip's going to go for the Randuin's Omen here as the second XDME.
Yeah, he doesn't have anywhere to go now, just getting zeroed on out. But actually, the movement speed from the Shurelias, as I say that, he just runs on out of there, did not get held up for long enough by the Solar Flare, so he's not actually going to be finished on off. But they know now that Karma has to go for the recall, and that's all that Sparta needs to be able to start on off this Baron.
Yeah, and with SPT setting up for this Baron right now, SK, they're going to have to be really careful looking to aggress into here. Maple Shade trying to get into the pit to look for a Death Realm ulti, it looks like.
Yeah, just throwing on down all those skills, but is just in a 1 versus 5 here. Just gets zeroed out before he can even throw down the Death Realm, and now there's going to be the Lamb's Respite preventing the Baron from going on down. They're trying to zero out this Trundle first. They are going to be able to do so, and now they secure the Baron for themselves to boot. It's a 2-for-0 fight with the Baron in favor, all for Sparta. And XDME and Alexander and Reeve, they just have to head for the hills. They know they've already lost on out on this exchange. They just have to hope to defend their base as best as possible.
So, a couple of things about that. One, Muscle, absolutely beautiful Lamb's Respite. They knew that More Sleep was going to try to go for a steal because they had to, essentially, at that point, because Maple Shade was able to get picked off and wasn't able to use a Death Realm. But at the same time, Alexander used the Chaos Storm, and Boost was forced to use his heal to get away from it. Otherwise, it was going to kill him in the pit.
Yeah, some interesting applications of those skills in that fight for sure, but Sparta's the one who ends up coming out on top there. As you said, they crucially keep the Baron alive for just long enough, then they all focus on the More Sleep to make sure that the steal cannot possibly come on across. And Maple Shade, he's unfortunately just going to get zeroed on out before he can really accomplish anything. Does not get to throw down the Death Realm, which would have been great if he could do it onto Muscle. Would have actually enabled More Sleep to get that steal. You got to believe that's what he was going for, but he just gets bursted on out before he even lands on the ground from the Cyclone.
Yeah, and there's just so much CC from the side of Sparta right now. Like, you have the Encore, you have the everything in Leona's kit, essentially, right? Her Zenith Blade, her Solar Flare, plus the Cyclone. It's going to be incredibly hard to contest these objectives by running at them. And like I've kind of mentioned again, SK can't be running at Sparta. And if they get forced into those situations, it's almost going to always be disastrous for them.
Yeah, and that string of disasters has just led to them being 6k gold down now. 30 more seconds on this next dragon. It looks like SK might want to think about contesting that one as well, but you got to believe that they might want to just hold on off, give it a little bit longer until they actually end up being able to contest here, but they're not really the favorite scaling team comp here either, so really a rough position for SK to be in. They just got to hope to find some picks wherever possible and expect them to set up their vision to be able to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And we kind of see here now, almost everyone on the side of Sparta is going to be ahead of their respective SK counterparts, right? Solo Lane has the QSS, has 2 items finished. Maple Shade has components for a couple of items, but isn't able to quite finish that. And this fifth dragon is just not going to exist. So Soul Point is going to be going up here for Sparta, but in the meantime, in the top lane, we do see a little bit of action.
Yeah, Solo Lane in a 1 versus 2 here actually goes back on in to try to take the fight up against Maple Shade. Not going to be very happy with what he sees when he comes on out, though. More Sleep just going to finish on off that kill onto the split pusher from the side of Sparta. Another kill goes back to the pockets of SK. The first step towards what surely needs to be a long and hard journey back into this game for the side of SK, but always has to start with that single step, and they do pick up the kill onto Solo Lane.
Exactly, and getting that kill is absolutely massive. Unfortunately, it does go into more sleep. Maple would have loved to have gotten that a little extra influx of gold, but a kill is a kill nonetheless. And for SK to be able to collapse on the split pusher from Sparta, just one less Baron on their team. Actually, Baron has effectively worn off here, so they were only able to really get a turret and a dragon out of it. So not necessarily the highest Baron power play we've seen, but it was still used to a rather good effect. And now Stop is trying to look at Maple Shade, not going to see the bush though.
Yeah, no Death Realm available. He used it in that fight up against solo lane, so not going to be able to go for the 0 out onto Seraphine there, but instead just going to wait for the minions to come to him, going to try to suck on up all of them that he can. Be able to hopefully have a little bit more success in these side lane fights later on. You can see with all the objectives off the map, Sparta are just left to kind of mill around. They're trying to get some vision advantages where they can, but they can't really find any fights as of yet. But as I say, the dash forward comes through from Muscle, trying to get onto Reeve, but he's going to be able to just supercharger his way on out of there.
And Maple Shade has 3 components for 3 different defensive items now. I'm expecting to see the Doran Shield sold for a 4th one. I don't know what it's going to be, but I hope that I see it. But we do see now that it's Sparta is just getting comfortable. There. Oh no, XDME.
Yeah, some of the slows come on across. He's going to flash away to make sure that he can't get snared up by that Gravitum Q from the side of Aphelios, but that is flash blown effectively for nothing. Now, once again, Solo Lane going to be in a 1 versus 2, tries to turn on to Alexander, but More Sleep is once again chasing him on down. Pillar comes on across, and it does look like SK is going to get themselves another pick here. They put another kill into the pocket of Alexander, and once again, Sparta, they can't get a response anywhere. They're still pushing in onto the top side, but they're not really going to get too much turret damage out of it.
Yeah, and SK is doing a great job playing these side lanes. They know that Solo Lane's just going to continue to try to look for these split pushes, and because as he has been this entire game, and the response has been phenomenal. Looking to collapse on him every time. It's a 2v1. It's going to be really hard for this Wukong to win that, especially against the different types of damage that you have available. So if More Sleep's there, Alexander or Maple Shade, any combination of those two can kill Solo Lane without really any fear of a return kill. And if we take a look at it, Alexander is on 3 items, has the Cosmic Drive, has the Death Cap finished, looking to be potentially either a Mikhail's, a Mishra's, or a Zanya's coming up for our 4th item. But this Victor is going to do an insane amount of damage if left untouched on the backline.
Yeah, and now Baron is spawning in about 10 seconds here. You can see Sparta have layered down a bunch of vision in advance for it, but it is getting cleared away here by the side of SK. See how far they end up going. Solar Flare not going to land the stun. Here comes the engage from Cathaldas, but he is now in a 2 versus 4, along with his jungler Muscle trying to dish out as much damage as he can. The Encore comes onto 2 members. XDME is taken down incredibly low, but isn't going to end up falling on down. Solo Lane has teleported into the top side as well. They really only got some chip damage onto the Karma, but that's what started the Baron last time. That's what it's going to start the Baron this time as well. So you can see the side of Sparta trying to burst this one out once again. More Sleep does have access to the flash. He's going to go for the steal. He's not going to be able to get it once again. No Lambs Fight shenanigans necessary this time. More Sleep is going to get zeroed on out there in the 1 versus 5. The snare comes on across onto Alexander. This is the opportunity they were waiting for. Boosted success flashes forward, trying to finish off onto Alexander. Not going to be able to do so, though. They're going to settle for the birds. Now Cathaldas looks for the engage on the side. Not going to be able to land it. 4 members of SK do survive, but the Baron goes into the pockets of Sparta. They should be able to set up their siege with it.
Yeah, Sparta's going to be definitely looking to try to get this bot tier 2 here, as we kind of see 4 members positioning for it. Solo Lane has walked down to mid to catch this wave here now. Oh, I completely just changed what I said. They're going to be setting up for this Oceans, or this Mountain Soul. Much more comfortable trying to get that, trying to use that. Now, something to keep in mind here is that Sparta fight, yes, they got that Baron, but they haven't reset yet to spend the gold. So the gold advantage that they have, it's actually going to be stunted by about 2,000 gold right now. So close to more than that, actually. It's going to be about 4,000 gold, almost 5 that they haven't spent, that's in their pockets. So this fight can actually be a lot closer than we thought it was.
Reeve gonna go for the engage, but he's gonna be met with a Cyclone. Look at all the AoE now being layered on down here. This is not the type of fight that SK want to be able to take here. They do manage to finish on off solo lane though. Maple Shade goes into the stasis, now is fighting off up against Muscle in the Death Realm. Will end up being taken down though. Now Muscle finds himself in a 1 versus 4, throws down the Lambert Spike to stay alive. He is managing to survive it on out, dashes over the wall and picks up 2 more. Nicely played there by Muscle on the Kindred, picks himself up a triple kill, punishes SK for staying a little bit too close to him in the Death Realm, and is going to be able to make it a 3 for 2 in favor of Sparta. They're also going to pick on up the Dragon Soul here. A huge win for the blue side.
That was the most aggressive dance of arrows I have seen in a while from a Kindred. Jumping over the wall, picking up 2 kills before you falling, and really importantly, that Mountain Soul got claimed at the perfect time. Being able to come out of the Death Realm, pick up the soul gets picked up, and so you're not immediately bursted down from it with the Lamb's Despite heal available means that Muscle survived for a lot longer than they really should have. So incredibly well played by them. Just getting a little too overzealous from the side of Sparta though into these choke points, so they have to be really careful though. We kind of saw Alexander got a really great gravity field down as well as a Chaos Storm, doing an insane amount of damage throughout that fight. So these choke points are a really dangerous zone for both teams to realistically be fighting, and they have to be careful as these next fights are going to be deciding this game 1 of our series here.
Yeah, definitely will. Definitely still going to be heavily in the favor of Sparta, though Boost is getting collapsed on here. Here comes the Killer Instinct from Reeve, trying to zero on out the opposing AD carry. Maple Shade is leading the way for the dive, and they are going to be able to actually pick it up. 4 members of SK collapse in the middle lane. They pick up the opposing AD carry, but that's a big encore coming through from Stop Aim Me. It looks like Boost doesn't even need to be here. Sparta are willing to take the fight one way or the other. Solo Lane finishes off the kill onto Reeve, but now is getting zeroed on out by Alexander. Stop Aim Me is trying to keep the fight going. Muscle is here to sub out for his AD carry to be the best AD damage source that he can be, but that's going to be Stop Aim Me taken down as well. Gathaldis going to fall down to the side of Maple Shade, and just like that, SK, they take the fight 4 for 2 overall. Muscle is the only one left alive, should not be able to pull any miracles out of his hat here, and SK, they've got a little bit of an advantage now. They can keep the push going in this mid lane.
Yeah, again, it's just a bit of an over-aggression from the side of Sparta. They thought that they had caught out 3 to 4 members because they had a collapse of that, but Cathaldis on this Leona wasn't able to join that fight at all because Maple Shade never died. He took the tier 1, walked past it, and went, I'm going to zone off the rest of this team. And because she wasn't able to join the fight, that was a huge component to Sparta's team fight that they just didn't have available to them. The amount of CC, her Ignite, none of it was there. So the fight, while initially looked really good for the side of Sparta, SK didn't have any opposition to Alexander on this Victor, so just kind of free hitting again, doing the insane amount of damage that we kind of talked about, and he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, Boost's success ends up getting caught on out there. Sparta, they just can't take these team fights without him. They need that range advantage. They need that consistent DPS source, and Muscle just can't make up the difference. Doesn't have enough range upgrades from Soul Stacks as of yet, and so is going to just end up losing on out the fight here. Sparta, though, still well and truly in the gold lead. Have gotten to spend a lot more of it now as well, as Alexander's over the wall, but he's getting engaged on by Solo Lane. Not going to get knocked up by the side lane, though, or the Cyclone, rather, as Alexander just going to flash on out of there. And against Solo Lane's ultimate is going to be down for this potential Baron fight starting up soon here, or at least a fight over the top river.
Yeah, and those are 3 crucial ultimates. Encore, Solar Flare, and Cyclone all down. Now, Cyclone and Solar Flare will be up relatively quickly, as we do see that they're all coming up, and as well as the Encore, I guess. I don't know my my ultimate timers very well. So by the time that this Baron spawns, those ultimates, they will be available again. It's just going to be up to SPT to Sparta to buy enough time and not allow SK to push into their base.
Yeah, they got to make sure to not take the fights with the ultimates down. That would certainly be an advantage over for the side of SK, and they've already managed to eke out a couple of fight wins here from the gold deficit already. They're in a better position now than they have been for the last 10 or 20 minutes. Gotta be very careful on the side of Sparta to not end up taking another unfortunate fight. If Boost gets zoned on out here, it's going to be a disaster. But now they're collapsing onto Maple Shade. They get some CC onto him. That is going to be the Death Realm thrown down onto Stop Aim Me. They're all grouping around this Mordekaiser, trying to jump him when he gets on out. But the rest of his team is there to back him on up. Solo Lane now comes on out. He is looking to get this engage, has the Cyclone back available now. The teams are going to swap sides here as the siege gets started for the side of SK. They want to threaten this mid lane inhibitor. Now here comes Sparta from the top side, looking to try to get an engage off of their Wukong. They're all grouped up together. Here comes Solo Lane, looking to dive on in out of the backside. He finally finds it. He goes for it. He gets the 4-man knock-up, and now here comes the Solar Flare as well to be layered on top. Sparta finally gets the team fight they were looking for, and they're going to wipe this one. Already 4 for 0. Reed is the last man standing. He's just got to run for the hills here, and Sparta should look to push into the base off of this fight.
Yeah, and that was exactly what Sparta was looking for the entire time. And SK, they debated and deliberated if they want to just trade this Baron while the ultimates are down and try to go for this turret, and they spent too much time just thinking about it. And because of that, not only did the ultimates come up for Sparta, but they got pincered, and because of the waves and the way that they were set up, they didn't get any minions that were able to walk with them into that turret. So their plan essentially became, we're now trapped between a turret and the entire enemy team. We're going to try to have to leave, but their ultimates are going to be up soon, and we're just going to die, and that's going to be the game one going over to Sparta.
SK kept it close for as long as they possibly could there, much longer than any of us expected, but it does end up going in the favor of Sparta at the end of the day. They finally get their 5-on-5 team fight they were looking for. They cut off SK in front of their own base, and they are going to be able to pick on up this W. But that was a hell of a game one, Trajan. Makes me real excited for this game number 2.
Yeah, both teams have an insane amount of fighting spirit here, and we see that they're not afraid to even look to contest these objectives or try to be adaptive across the battlefield, even when they know that they're down gold or they're down a Dragon Soul. Even with that Mountain Soul in the hands of Sparta, we saw SK being incredibly proactive. They were trying to make these decisions as a team, and you saw them all working together. And even with the deficits they had throughout this entire game one, they were still taking advantageous fights, looking for any ground that they could gain back for themselves, and were really doing a great job of trying to claw their way back into that game.
Certainly we're here and really excited to see what they can do if they come in with a little bit different of a look on the draft in this next game. We're going to have to find on out soon enough, though. We're going to throw it to a quick break while we get loaded on up into the draft for game number 2, but do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more of Sparta taking on SK. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you all for staying tuned during the brief intermission. We are back, and very shortly we'll be getting into draft for game number 2 of Sparta up against SK. Suspect there will be a little bit of a side flip there, but, yeah, SK did elect to take blue, just hearing that from production now. And how do you think this changes the draft coming in at Trajan? We saw SK, they were able to keep that one close for a long time, but did end up falling to Sparta at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see what the contested pick is going to be over for them. With a lot of the other teams that we've been seeing lately, it's been a lot of jungle picks, right? You've seen the Xin Zhaos, the Dianas. They've been the go-to champions that we see. But in this game, it looked like Sparta had no problem with taking that Seraphine, with it being an incredibly powerful flex pick for them. So I'm interested to see if SK wants to take that advantage for themselves and how Sparta themselves will respond to that. Because Seraphine is a really just kind of universal tool. She's like the Swiss Army knife of champions, right? You can put her in a lot of different positions and she'll just be fine. But when it comes to those big team fights that we saw, all it takes is just one encore to completely change the course of a game. And with a couple of really good encores coming out in game 1, it was enough, to me at least, to signify that, hey, this is the champion that we should be contesting again.
Yeah, absolutely here. And now we are going to be stepping on into this draft. Let's see who ends up coming on out on top here for the series. If it's going to be SK bringing us all the way to a game 3, or if it is going to be Sparta taking it down into the Seraphine. Going to be the first one to hit the ban list there. That means we are going to at least see a different mid lane coming on out from the side of Stop Aim Me.
Yeah, SK opted to remove the Kindred as well, so they're really just kind of getting Sparta off of these champions that they were comfortable playing in game one and trying to get them into something that's a little bit different, something that they can potentially play around just a little bit better here. And as far as their picks go, I'm really interested to see what their priority is. They're electing to take Lucid. They want to have this first pick, this priority pick, and we're going to have to see what champion's going to be super contested. Something that we didn't see last game that's been a little interesting to me was neither a Viego nor Gwen pick or ban. So we do see the Ziggs ban getting picked up here from Spartas. There will be some slight alterations to their banning patterns, and the Ziggs is been incredibly impressive in the bot lane recently, but it does look like they're going to pick up the Irelia here. That is a very bold first pick, but the champion, since our mini rework, has been absolutely dominating.
Certainly do agree there, and this was a pick that we saw Alexander bust on out for himself last week. Might also be something that they could flex over to top lane as well, so certainly going to be a pick to keep our eyes on here. A lot of pay-making power, and we saw how far ahead Alexander was able to get early on in the victor in the last game. They just weren't able to transition that lead into actual team fight victories, but now it is going to be Sparta hovering the Gwen here, going to lock it on in. Gotta believe that that one's going to be for solo lane, but this is another triple flex pick coming on across from the side of Sparta. Should be able to make sure that that one goes into the best matchup possible.
Yeah, Gwen received a nerf this patch. Her E doesn't quite get as much attack speed now. It was a rather significant one, but she's still been an incredibly dominant laner. Still relatively good in the jungle as well. A very underrated jungle pick, especially in terms of AP junglers, especially since we've seen a lot of them kind of fall out of favor lately. Gragas has been seeing a bit of a resurgence, but I think Gwen and Diana are just miles ahead of what they have to offer here. But the Thresh is going to be picked up pretty early here. So it does look like that Sparta's going to be looking for that kind of really brawly team fighting style again, where Thresh has the ability to kind of dark passage people in, and obviously with the death sentence and box, you have a lot of really good zone control.
Yeah, that is going to be another real power pick here coming through for the side of Sparta. Can be paired up with a whole lot of different bot laners. That Aphelios that we saw from Boost last game in particular, be a very powerful duo here. We do see SK going to lock in that Ezreal. You got to know that one's for Reeve. Should be a safer pick up against this Thresh. Should make sure that he's at least going to be able to remain safe in that bottom lane, regardless of what the side of Sparta ends up picking up for themselves.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if SK decides to go with the Karma again, but it looks like they're going to potentially just want to handshake the lane and go Ezreal Nautilus. Just something with a bit more proactive playmaking power in their kit, having that extra CC available to them. And that was something that their composition really kind of lacked in game one, was they didn't have a ton of abilities that were direct CC, right? They had Trundle Pillar and Gravity Field from Victor, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't that much. But here we see the Samira is going to be picked up for SBT for Sparta, and this is a pick that Boost has played in the past, so I'm going to be curious to see how he can perform on it today, especially in a lane like Nautilus Ezreal and against an Irelia. That seems like there's a lot of abilities and burst potential that you just don't get to play the game if you're a Samira, so going to be really curious to see how they decide to go with that.
Yeah, I actually like the Samira a lot as an option up against the Ezreal. That W from the Samira does enable you to zero on out a lot of the major damage sources that Ezreal does bring up if you can block. You hope a true shot barrage, but even just a mystic shot here or there, or something like the Anchor, should do a lot towards being able to actually win those 2v2 engages. And also now has the Thresh Lantern to be able to get themselves out after they do go for that dash in. So should be definitely some action-packed bot lane there for the side of Sparta. We'll see how that does up against SK, who are going to be looking to play it a little bit more slow, a little bit more calm.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't look like they're SK's really wanting to see stop on any of these signature champions for himself. When we see a couple of top laners going to get banned out here, targeted towards Maple Shade, so they are relatively confident on the side of Sparta that this Irelia is going mid lane, and now they're just going to be banning out some more favorable matchups for them. In terms of actual team compositions here, something that I think is going to be incredibly important to keep our eyes on is how well Gwen is able to use her Hollow Mist. Dodging key abilities or being able to prevent a certain amount of damage from a certain spell is going to be absolutely huge. And we do see the Lee Sin going to be picked up here. I actually really like this pick for Sparta. High mobility means that you're going to be able to go toe-to-toe in terms of Irelia with dancing around this battlefield, and the pick potential for with your Insect as well with your Warthop and Dragon's Rage is going to be absolutely huge, so they have to be careful from the side of SK.
Yeah, really excited to see if this Poppy is locked on in here for Maple Shade. He does play a lot of that Q and should be relatively efficient up against the Gwen, should at least stop her from skipping and slashing on into these fights. And it does get locked on in. That's a very efficient Poppy here, given the champions that Sparta's already locked in. We'll do a lot to lock down the Lee Sin. We'll do a lot to lock down the Samira in the team fights. A really great look here for Maple Shade to be able to bust out the champion. He should be able to do a lot of damage on this frontline Poppy.
Yeah, and it affects every champion that Sparta's drafted so far, right? Like, they all have an ability that will allow them to try to dash or look for anything like that, but the Evelynn is going to be the hovered and the lock in here, so that is going to be an Evelynn jungle now. Something that we see will scale better than Lee Sin, has the ability to kind of move around the map at a pace that can be kept up with Lee Sin. Early game won't be as strong, so if you're more sleep, you really need to be looking to keep yourself at a distance, right? Kind of farm your way up, hit level 6, look for a couple of ganks if you can, but you don't want to be on the same side as Muscle, because these 2v2s are going to be really, really hard to win, especially as we kind of look at it and see the Rise is going to be locked in here for Sparta as their final pick, and that's going to be really a good answer to the scaling issue that they had going into this late game. So if we see Top Aim gets the time and the lead that they want to get onto this Rise, the game will become really hard as this Rise kind of hits those power spikes at 2 items incredibly hard.
Yeah, certainly something to keep an eye on. This Evelynn is another comfort pick here for More Sleep. SK now have a lot of champions that they have a lot of solo queue games played on. Should be some picks that they know how to execute on. We'll see if they are able to execute on them up against Sparta. Sparta, they've just got power here, given what's really popular in the current meta. Forget about the Samira for a second there, but the Lee Sin in the jungle, something that Muscle's really comfortable on as well. Also something that's super highly prized in the current game. The Gwen scaling on up into later. The Rise going to be doing the same. And that Thresh, who has just been one of the highest priority supports for pretty much the entire season now, has so much offense and defense, super flexible as a support pick here. Will have excellent roaming to boot. Really like the team comp from Sparta here. If they are really able to just brute force it down SK here, get themselves advantages in lanes, or just execute through superior team fighting. SK, though, this Poppy is really the X factor. If they're able to get a nice lead for Maple Shade, or if they are just able to get him through the laning phase in a good enough state to where he can just position himself in these team fights and shut down so many angles of play from the side of Sparta, that'll be huge for the side of SK.
Yeah, and importantly, Gordo, too, when we kind of look at this, is Poppy doesn't need to offer a ton to these team fights. She just has to press W. And it negates everything that Sparta has. And something that I really like from the side of SK this game is that they've drafted themselves a composition that has just as much CC as what Sparta has for themselves. And that's, again, what they were really lacking in game 1. They just didn't have the ability to lock people down super efficiently. And with this composition that they have now, they have more than enough that allows them to do that. So I'm going to be really interested to see how it goes. The biggest thing for me this game, and I think for you it'll be similar, is kind of focusing our attention, looking at mid and bot lane this game. Those are both, again, you have the safer bot lane, and then you have the more aggressive one. And in the terms of Sparta, they want to be looking for these early kills, these early leads, trying to get as much as they can out of it. But in the meantime, Alexander's going to be looking for the same thing on stop on this Rise in the mid lane. So if Irelia is able to get a snowball going for ourselves, we've all seen what happens in solo queue. It's incredibly dangerous and a massive pain in the ass for anyone on your team.
Yeah, and where Poppy is the lockdown for the side of SK, Rise is going to be filling that same role a lot of time for the side of Sparta. Same thing with that Thresh. If they're able to land some hard CC onto the Evelynn, onto the Irelia, and just get them bursted on out by the massive amount of burst damage that Sparta's bringing to the table, that can just end a fight in an instant here. This Irelia and Evelynn in particular going to really have to be on the lookout for where they're standing relative to Rise, relative to Thresh, because if they get caught on out, it can just be the end for SK very quickly, regardless of where Maple Shade ends up positioning on this Poppy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how both these compositions come out because these team fights are going to be incredibly scrappy, really, really bloody, and both teams have a lot going for them in there.
Yeah, certainly should be here, as we are going to be finishing out the in-client draft. Not going to see any crazy shenanigans as far as flex picks go. Seems like everybody's pretty well defined in their roles here, but once again, I think the lane to watch is going to end up being this this bottom lane. Should really be Boost and Cathalda's really looking for a lot of aggression here in the 2-on-2. They want to get the Samir off to an early lead. They do have the counter pick there into the Ezreal. Should be an action-packed lane to keep a close eye on, both for these junglers and for us on the broadcast.
100%. And we do see here that the bot lane of Sparta has opted to take Exhaust Ignite instead of heal. So they are really looking to get some blood on their hands.
Yeah, certainly are there. I'm excited to watch these guys brawl it on out. But with that said, we are going to throw it to a quick break here while we get loaded on into game number 2. Do not touch that browser. We're going to be right back with more of SK taking on Sparta in the Aegis Defenders League. Welcome back, everybody, to the Aegis Defenders League matchup between SK and Sparta. Finished off just a little bit ago watching Sparta take game number 1 in what was a pretty drawn-out game. Now we are back to completely even in gold. We've completed a whole second draft. We're going to see what SK is able to execute on here. Up against Sparta once again, who do appear to be going for a little bit of a 5-man invade up on the top side.
Oh, both teams are going for it. Are we going to see the infamous NA level 1? It looks like both teams have really just kind of missed the mark. They're just going to be able to get some deep vision on to the respective topside buffs of each jungler. Does it look like they're going to stay? Nope. Okay, so all of Sparta has recalled. And it looks like they are still stacking here as 5, potentially trying to catch out a straggler. But it does look like both teams went for the top invade, but they both took very different routes. Not something you see every day, Gordo.
Nope, ships in the night, Trajan, as they end up just invading opposite sides of the jungle. That is now going to be Evelyn spotting it out on her blue buff, and that's going to be Gwen spotting it out by her red buff. That is going to be a little bit of information gleaned by both sides, but nobody going to get too significant of an advantage off of it.
Oh my god, Muscle's doing this. Okay, so as a jungle main, I have to talk about this because it's really funny to me. But Lee Sin is able to do a leashless level 1 5 camp and still have time to hit Scuttle Crab before it spawns. It's actually insane right now. He's getting nerfed next patch, and I think this is why, but it's actually crazy that he can do this by himself.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, going to be keeping an eye on Muscle here as he does end up going in for this clear. Certainly should be clearing at a little bit faster of a rate than More Sleep, or at least at a higher health total. So that Evelyn going to take a little bit to scale on up and to dish out a little bit more damage. We will see if either of them are able to make anything happen. Evelyn in particular has some very nice level 2s. She is able to get the right angle, but it doesn't seem like any of the lanes are going in such a way that that would be possible.
Yeah, level 2 is going to ding up here first for the bot lane of Sparta, and we do kind of see them getting priority early on. Maple Shade getting bullied out pretty heavily by solo lane on this Gwen, as Gwen is what Gwen does. But in the mid lane, again, we see Alexander forcing a lot of pressure onto stopping me, just because Irelia has the ability to do that. But one thing to keep in mind here is that Muscle will be pathing towards the top side, so More Sleep should have the first shot at a bot lane gank, but here we see Muscle making his way towards mid.
Yeah, the pressure from Alexander pushing up the lane a little bit there might give Muscle the opportunity he's looking for, but instead, he's going to go for this invade onto More Sleep. More Sleep still should not know that this is going down. Muscle has a pretty good idea, though. He can see it right before his very eyes. Might be waiting. He doesn't seem to have the smite. Instead, there's going to be this fight in the bot lane. XD going to be trading on here. Now, here comes Muscle. He has now revealed himself. He flows out the Sonic Wave. He steals away the red buff. Nicely played there by the Sparta jungler. Also going to get himself off to a nice, substantial gold lead off of being able to pick up that camp. He still has his own red buff to return to, assuming he does so in pretty good time. He will also be able to get this bottom lane scuttler.
Yeah, and we can see here that More Sleep immediately starts pathing towards his top lane scuttle, has top lane priority now, will continue to have mid lane priority. Might even look to go into Muscle's jungle to take this
this red buff away from this Lee Sin, but it does look like we might see some action coming out in the mid lane. But no, it does look like Muscle will be going for a quick reset here, taking a couple of camps.
Yeah, there's going to be more sleep, at least able to pick on up the top lane. Scuttler now looking to steal away camps, as you said, Trajan, although that's a hook in the bottom lane, landed onto Reeve. He's going to shift himself on out of there, but now boosted success, getting a bunch of free damage on back onto XD. Is taking a little bit low from the minion autos there, so actually not really ending up too poorly for the side of SK, despite the Thresh hook actually managing to connect on the opposing AD carry. That's another Mystic shot on the boosted success. He's going to have to take a recall here pretty soon, and just like that, Maple Shade is starting to turn around the top lane as well. Got a nice stun up against the wall, gets a nice shock as well. Tons of damage here coming through from the side of SK.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing the benefit of taking Corrupting Pot into this lane. Poppy has the durability with her W passive, getting those extra resistances, and the Corrupting Pot just means these trades against solo lane are going to be that much more favorable there. But huge credit to Reeve. Honestly, this man was weaving Mystic shots in and out incredibly throughout that fight, and unfortunately boosting Catholicis, they took an exchange and they tried to take a trade into 7 caster minions, and that's just at the level that they're at right now just isn't going to fly.
Ooh, and those are those Irelia buffs really showing themselves there. Alexander gets his angle in, goes for the blade surges, and then when he enters that W, it now reduces magic damage more than it used to, and really stops a lot of that trade damage coming back from the Rise. Nicely played there by Alexander.
Yeah, really, really well done. Both teams are just kind of sitting, letting themselves scale. Muscle hasn't really been able to find anything across the map except by taking that camp away from More Sleep, but More Sleep is ahead on CS currently right now, will at some point have an XP lead. I'm assuming after these Krugs will probably end up being level 5. Yes, we do see it dinged first. So stealing the red buff away, while it was enough to slow down this Evelynn a little bit, it wasn't enough. And we can kind of see here, hasn't taken a reset yet. We'll probably be looking for that now, and I would assume has enough gold to get a decent amount of ability power here. So your early trades on this Evelynn are going to be that much more lethal, especially since level 6 is right around the corner for her.
Yeah, Gwen was able to get that recall off, is able to go and buy some items for herself, so didn't quite get the interrupt there, did Maple Shade, but you can see in the bottom lane, Boost has gotten his CS back up in his favor a little bit, was falling behind to the Ezreal after being forced to take that recall earlier on, but now with this wave crashing in, they should be a little bit closer to even by the time these are all cleared on out here. But first dragon of the game, going to go over to the side of Sparta. Muscle was able to pick that one up, and that's another hook landed in the bottom lane. Boost not going to be able to turn that into too much damage, though, until he has that Inferno trigger.
Yep, and again, level 6 is going to be incredibly explosive for both of these teams. They really, really have impactful ultimates at that point. Rise is probably the least impactful, and even then, his Realm Warp is still a really, really great tool that, when used effectively, can just absolutely obliterate teams.
Yeah, and there we can see Maple Shade once again going in for trades up against solo lane here, but actually already used the Steadfast Presence. Now is going to be forced to use the ultimate as well to make sure that solo lane isn't going to get the solo kill up there in that top lane. Just Gwen doing Gwen things, bullying even when this Poppy is should in theory be able to stop a lot of her advances.
Yep, and we can kind of see now Maple Shade forced to take a reset, but More Sleep is up on the top side of the map, is available there. Just hit the level 6, so if solo lane's not careful, does have a flash available, but does not have needlework available, so not a ton of healing or sustain available, but More Sleep trying to find them will not be able to look for it, though.
Valdez has the opportunity for a big flash play here. Not even going to use it, though. Just walks up menacingly, throws the death sentence, and it is going to be just that. Up against XD. First blood gets claimed for Muscle, and now here comes the teleport through from Maple Shade, but he can't represent too much damage on this Poppy. He's looking to get the lockdown here. Gets a nice stun on the Muscle. A huge play from that pink ward in the bush. Enables the stun to come on across. Means that they are able to get that trade kill. Stop AME is throwing on out those blasts, trying to get some damage back onto the side of SK, but it doesn't look like any more kills are going to end up going down here. Maple Shade, though, keeps the fight going, dives in onto Boost success. A nice block there, going to stop the ultimate from the Ezreal, going to turn it around and going to pick up the kill on the Maple Shade. Now here comes another teleport coming on through from solo lane, trying to take the fight over onto this Ezreal. The lockdown comes on through from the Rise, and solo lane going to pick up a kill as well. Sparta turns it into a 2-for-1 in the bottom lane.
Yeah, huge credit to SK there. Especially Maple Shade, knew that as this Poppy with the Sheen, you had an insane amount of damage and was almost able to take boost from half health to dead. Unfortunately, though, did have the Wind Wall available, was able to block the True Shot Barrage from Reeve and pick up the kill on them, but that was
an incredible display of knowledge and familiarity. As you mentioned, they've played a lot of games of this Poppy, so they know what they can do and what they can't do on the champion. So good exchange on there. At the end of the day, though, Sparta did come out on top, picked up a couple of extra kills, but the gold lead is still favoring SK. So this game, even though the Dragon went over to Sparta, Sparta won that fight, it is still neck and neck, and it does look like Muscle is going to get picked out here.
Yeah, Maple Shade does have access to a big load of damage on that Poppy, especially with the Sheen already picked up as well. Likely going to be going for that Sunderer build and should actually be able to represent a substantial threat to some of the squishier members of Sparta. We can see More Sleep is here as well. Solo Lane coming on down for the collapse, though, is going to be 4 members here facing off against Maple Shade. That was a huge knockup coming through from the Poppy ultimate, but there just is no follow-up, and Stop Aim Me going to pick up another kill there on the Maple Shade. Sparta going to pick up the Rift Herald to boot, and once again, they just take control in the team fight. They managed to come on out ahead. Maple Shade just pulls the trigger a little bit too early without the follow-up, gets punished by the Spartans.
Yeah, and More Sleep is still hunting. Like, they're invisible. They can hunt. They're going to try to cheese anyone that they can, but Muscle will wisely snoop that out. But it was just a little bit too, and you mentioned it, Gordo, perfectly, just a little too early on there. Alexander was off of a reset. XDME was walking up from bot lane, and More Sleep was still trying to get their way up to that Herald. So had Maple Shade waited just 5 seconds longer, it would have been a much better fight for them. Unfortunately, it didn't, and the Poppy did lose their life again, and the Herald is going to get picked up here, but that's a lot of turret plating that's going to get picked up in the mid lane for SK. So they are keeping this game neck and neck in terms of gold, and with all these plates going over to Reeve, this Ezreal's really happy to be picking up all this extra gold, especially in a lane that if you blink once, you can just die in a heartbeat.
And we've been talking about range differences all series long. It was the Aphelios in the last game, but in this game, it is going to be on the side of SK. It is going to be this Ezreal can start shooting off shots from so much farther away than anybody else in the game. If Reeve is able to get himself a substantial lead here, he is able to be one of the highest damage characters in the game. He is going to be so much of a force up against Sparta, but now we get to Stop Aim Me getting collapsed on in the middle lane, not quite getting zeroed on out there by the ultimate from the Evelynn, and does Realm Warp his way out of there. Nicely played by Stop Aim Me to get away with just a sliver of HP. Evelynn is incredibly low here, but More Sleep is going to go into that stealth, going to regen a bunch of it on back. Nobody going to end up going down off of that mid lane engage.
Yep, and both teams just kind of looking to trade across here. Plates are going to be up for another 2.5 minutes, and we do see that the Cloud Soul has spawned onto the Rift, and it does look like SK does have the vision control for it. However, that's going to be a pick onto XDME. It's going to be looking like easy pickup for Muscle here, but in the top lane, some more action going down.
Yeah, these melee carries going at it here. Alexander trying to get some health back there with the blade surges, is getting a lot of it, and now is going to turn back on in with the full passive stacks onto Solo Lane, trying to finish off onto this Gwen now that the needlework is down. Not going to be able to finish her off, but really making himself known in the one-on-one. That's going to be another proc, though. Looking in for the solo kill, and Alexander is going to do it up against Gwen in the top lane. Nicely played, as Sparta does trade for the dragon across the map, but the solo kill goes in the favor of Alexander. He's getting himself started on this Irelia.
That solo bolo is exactly what SK needed there. And we see now it's going to be an Ocean Rift on this Dragon for the soul point for this game, which both teams are going to be wanting to contest over. But SK had the vision set up, but unfortunately XDME was going to get picked up there as an unfortunate pick by Muscle and Cathaldus, since that death sentence is going to be continues to be a great tool for the side of Sparta. But meanwhile, in the top lane, something to talk about too that we didn't really get to mention is that both of the solo laners for Sparta are AP threats. So Alexander and Maple Shade have a really easy time itemizing effectively and defensively, because since both of the laners that they could be split pushing against are going to be doing all magic damage, they don't have to worry about swapping into someone like a Renekton or a Set or anything like that. So it makes it a lot easier. So these Merc Treads that Alexander had picked up paid huge dividends in that fight. Also, it's Irelia, and you're dancing around 1,000,000 miles an hour, and so the lane just had no idea where to put the needlework. But regardless of that, you're still taking reduced damage from it.
Yeah, nicely played there by Alexander, showing off his Irelia mechanics in the one-on-one. We'll see if that does end up paying off dividends later on, as the Cyrelia going to be looking to be a big, powerful carry force for the side of SK, is going to need to represent a substantial amount of damages. Ezreal might not be able to match some of the DPS being dished on out by a Samira late game, especially if she does get that Inferno trigger out off. But now Alexander going on in, but is potentially getting baited here. Muscle not going to land the Sonic Wave, though. Irelia going to be just fine for the time being.
Both teams, again, still just kind of dancing around here. We do see now that it does look like Moresleep has picked up the Proto Belt for themselves, does have the magical, slightly magical footwear, so that's going to be a lot of extra movement speed.
Oh, Muscle dashing on back here, but he does have the Death Charge onto him. Might end up going on down here. A nice heal off the Gore Drinker, going to keep him alive for the time being, but now he's getting locked on down by the Poppy, and it's going to get finished on off by Alexander Irelia. Another kill goes into the pocket of SK here. Not going to have a dragon for them to take, but they do manage to get the pickup onto Muscle there. Going to get some crucial gold back, and once again going to funnel that gold into the Irelia to make sure that Alexander can carry from this pick.
Yep.
Oh, a nice block. That's going to be the Dredge Line stopped in its tracks by Boost of Success, but it looks like the engage is going to be thwarted nonetheless. Maple Shade still potentially trying to make something happen in the bottom lane, but looks like there's going to be a little break in the action for the time being, Trajan.
Yeah, and SK had the ability to look for that, right? They have the mid push going for themselves. Stop is going to be on a reset right now, and Alexander was able to use the TP to go into the top lane to stop Solo Lane from pushing on the Squen and looking to threaten the first tower of the game. And it does look like there's a dive going to be going up down here now.
Yeah, no, Solo Lane's got nowhere really left to go. Alexander is taking up the turret, though. Might end up going on down. Oh, no, SK, as they do end up losing their mid laner in a botched turret dive. Just takes a few too many shots. Moresleep not able to roach out the damage. The flash ward from Moresleep to try to finish off the execute, but it doesn't quite do enough with the last embrace. And that is, in fact, going to be Solo Lane surviving the dive, getting himself a kill on back, expending all the abilities from those diving him, and he's just going to go for the recall.
And that's why we ban Gwen. So props to Solo Lane, but between the healing from Leeching Layer, so you have the Omni Vamp, you have your passive, and being able to hit Needlework onto two champions at once means that you're healing so much from that and just able to sustain through that entire dive. And it looked like Alexander and Moresleep had it, but they just didn't have enough damage to get Solo Lane into that threshold for Last Embrace to be that execute there. And unfortunately, Solo Lane's going to be able to survive just barely on a tick of health. It's going to cost the flash out of Moresleep and Alexander shutdown, so the momentum of this game is just going back and forth, Gordo. Both teams are still completely neck and neck, but Sparta has two dragons, and with it being an Ocean Soul this game, that is a huge dragon to keep your eyes on.
Oh, that's another death sentence there landed onto Reeve, and that's going to be the Sonic Wave landing as well. Muscle going to come on in, going to execute, and going to kick Moresleep right back into the waiting arms of Sparta, but it's not going to be enough to finish him on off, and Muscle actually going to end up being traded back on by Moresleep here. Now it's all to boost success. That ultimate has virtually no cooldown. He's going to be channeling on top of Moresleep, and he's going to pick himself up another kill, make that two as he finishes off on an XD me as well. Meanwhile, Matt Shade is able to take the one-on-one on the top side up against Solo Lane, and there's fights everywhere. Trajan is stopping me, go to flash forward, trying to finish it off on Alexander, but doesn't manage to land the last overload. The healing coming out across from Alexander, not going to be able to finish him on off with the spell flux, and that does mean that it's going to be survival for Alexander. Not going to end up going down a second time, but across the map, Sparta certainly takes more gold, certainly takes more objectives, and certainly takes the lead.
Yeah, and if Sparta's able to put themselves onto Soul Point here, that is a huge threat for SK, and they don't have the pressure on the map right now to be able to look to even to try to contest these. True Shot Barrage is going to come out and knock three members of the side of Sparta really low, but they just want to fight. They have gold in their pockets. They want to spend it. They're going, we're on Soul Point. We don't care about the second Herald at all right now. We're just going to sit and relax, and by the time that this next dragon comes up, we're going to force another fight, or we're going to look for a skirmish like that again. And it's going to be a bloody dragon if the side of SK aren't able to make anything happen for themselves. And that starts by taking one of these turrets, specifically this mid lane turret that's sitting at under 600 health. It just needs to die. Maple Shade's gonna have the Demolish Block. We'll pick up the first turret of the game up in the top lane, but that turret doesn't mean a whole lot when the dragon's on the other side of the map.
And it all starts with Cathaldus landing that death sentence in the bottom lane. Huge play from the support of Sparta as now boosted success, and Cathaldus once again are going to try to take the fight to Maple Shade. They got their jungler coming on up as well, but they don't even need him. So the Inferno Trigger channel is more than enough. Poppy does not have ultimate, does not have any way of interrupting the Samira ult, and that means another kill going to go into the pocket of Sparta, and they're going to look to take on up that Rift Herald to boot. Not going to be landing the death sentence on a more
look at Nautilus.
Oh, XD coming on in for the flank here, going to land it onto the opposing jungler, but where is the burst damage? It's in more sleep, but boost of success going to flash away just in time to be able to stay on the live, dashing back on through, but now here comes Alexander trying to carry the fight. He finishes on off on a boost of success, but gets traded back on the other side. Now, where will the fight go from here? More sleep going to get over the wall with the ultimate, but he's going to get chased on over by the side of Muscle. XD now left all alone. Solo lane is chasing him on down, skips and slashes forward. It is going to be able to finish on off another one for the side of Sparta. It's a 2 for 3 all in all, but all this while, Stop Aim Me pushing in the bottom lane, going to pick up turret as well.
Yeah, it was just a really a good flank from the side of XDME, but unfortunately, again, just the positioning from the team just wasn't enough there. Reeve able to pick up this mid-tier 1 for themselves, which is absolutely what SK needed. They lost the fight, they needed to trade for something, but now Stop Aiming on this rise, has the Everfrost completed, has a fully stacked tier, is going to be able to just instantly clear these waves right now. You cannot let this man be in a lane by himself.
And Alexander, he saw his opportunity, got in, he got the big shutdown on to boost his success, but from there on out, there just wasn't enough damage available for SK. They did not have Reeve in the fight. Reeve was forced to be elsewhere, clearing away waves, and had only recently respawned from getting dove in the bottom lane, and that just means that SPT, they just have way more access to damage. Solo lane comes on through to reinforce the fight, has so much power on that Gwen, has the Rift Maker as well to get some healing to boot, and he's able to just finish on off the fight with Muscle, even though they end up losing boost.
Yep, and Herald's going to be preserved here by Muscle. We'll have it up in time for this dragon. So, and with the top tier 1 still up, all Muscle has to do is reset, spawn this Herald up in top lane. Let's say, tell Solo lane, hey, go nuts, and they're going to have so much extra pressure on the map that SK has to decide if they want to contest that or risk giving up Soul, and they can't give up Soul. So Sparta's doing a great job of forcing SK into these positions where they have to take the lesser of 2 bad decisions.
They certainly are going to be forced to. And the lesser is certainly going to be stopping the Soul. They really cannot afford to give Ocean Soul over to the side of this SPT team. They already have so much sustain with the Gore Drinker on the Lee Sin, with that Rift Maker on the side of the Gwen, with Samira and all of the lifesteal she ends up building. Giving even more over there should really be a massive issue, as now we do see a little bit of an engage coming through from Stop Aim Me. It is just going to be Alexander looking to turn the fight around with the Vanguard's Edge, has more sleep on the backup, and he's going to be able to finish on off that kill. That means Stop Aim Me going to be dead for a little while longer. Should be up in time for the dragon to spawn, but another little bit of gold going back to the side of SK.
Yeah, and Stop Aim either thought that it was just going to be Alexander, but More Sleep very wisely knew that your mid laner's overextended, is trying to get the push under this turret, and is going to safely hover there. So incredibly well played by the side of SK, good execution on that, and being able to pick up the kill and Stop Aiming mean that they can get a good reset off. Irelia can spend that extra gold and potentially finish. Yep, does have the Blade of the Rue King finish now. So Irelia has a lot of agency in these team fights, will be able to sustain a ton through the Bork healing as well as the Gore Drinker. We saw it up in that first Herald fight. Gore Drinker kept her alive for an incredible amount of time in that fight, but it does look like SPT are going to be the first ones to this dragon. They're going to get the first option and first chance to set up Vision here, as it will be SK getting forced off of it.
Yeah, definitely will be there. It does look like More Sleep is coming around on the bottom side. Everybody is here for the side of SK. They want to get this dragon fight. They want to be the first ones to make a move here. SPT has thrown on down to that Rift Herald, going to be trying to get some crashes
look at
on
More
it,
Sleep.
but it does get stopped by Alexander. Yeah, as you said, Trey, should look at More Sleep. He's hanging around on the backside, lurking into the enemy jungle, has gotten the stun onto boost to success, lands the charm, goes on over the wall, one-shots him with the last embrace, and that is going to be the opportunity that SK were waiting for. They go in for the engage. Alexander goes in and gets the shutdown onto Muscle, and it's all clean up now for the side of SK. The stun comes on across onto Solo lane. The Vanguard's Edge lands on the last remaining 2. It's all Alexander as he dashes through the rest of the team to finish off the last remaining kills. An ace, 5 for 0 for the side of SK. They pick up the dragon, and they pick up so much more.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to get the Baron here. This game just got completely turned on its head. SK found the fight that they wanted, and huge credit to More Sleep. This man found the perfect charm onto Boost. The one person that they had to actually be terrified of in these fights, able to weave that in between 4 different members, get it off flash, and immediately execute her through the shield she was given, through the lifeline passive. It didn't matter. Lock it all fell apart there. And now, for the first time this game, we see SK has a definitive gold lead, up 3,500 gold, has the Baron. All of their champions are scaling to the point where they have essentially 2 items now. And well, once More Sleep resets, they'll have their second item. But this is where they want to be. And if Sparta want to even try to contest themselves back into this game, they have to go, hey, we need to make sure we always know where Evelyn is. And they had their first shot at Vision, but unfortunately More Sleep played around it incredibly well.
Yeah, no, just nobody there to actually to spot on out that Evelyn. Nobody to actually be able to finish on off, or really even keep track of the jungler from the side of SK. Means that the fight can just end up being turned on in an instant, and the entire game gets turned as well. It is now a 4K gold lead in the side of SK, Trajan.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. That single play just opens up the entire game for SK, and they are firmly in the driver's seat of this match now. And you can see they're looking to execute a very solid 1-3-1, but Sparta, they're scared to try to look for anything in the face of a Baron empowered minions, but they don't know where Evelyn is.
Yeah, and they do not, and they've learned their lesson now. At the very least, they need to have vision of the Evelyn. They need to have some idea of where More Sleep is before they can go in for these engages, or she might just turn it all around on its head. Going to be Boost's success hanging out alone in the middle lane. They got to try to at least keep fresh nearby if they want to have any hope of keeping that Samira alive for these later fights. But there's Reeve just raining on down the damage. Stop Aim Me is in the side lane here up against Maple Shade, just getting the trades on across. But look at the damage that this Poppy can deal now with this Divine Sunderer build.
Yeah, I mean, Divine Sunder is just an absolutely gross item. It went from being one of my least favorite items in the game to probably the most broken item. And it's not even a close contest at this point. You can kind of see here that Maple Shade, with a single item, is able to duel any of the carries on the side of Sparta, and has continuously been able to. And now we can kind of see the inner turrets are starting to fall. Sparta's getting pushed back into their base. They have to defend these inhibitor turrets. They cannot let them go down. Any turret that goes down at this point just gives More Sleep free reign to walk into your base and sit in there for free. It just means that the map is so much more open for this Evelyn to look for these flanks, to look for these picks. And if they get another one like they did onto Boost, this game could very well just be over.
Yeah, so much of it going to be in More Sleep's hands now. If he's able to keep playing like he did in that last Dragon fight, then this game should be going in the favor of SK. Rest of the SK squad, they know that they now have the lead back in their favor. The kills are neck and neck, but the gold is well and truly in the side of SK. They really want to be able to take this one to a game 3 tonight.
Yeah, and they are firing on all cylinders tonight, Gordo. With the 5th dragon of the game spawning here in just over a minute, both teams are trying to get the resets off, trying to spend the gold that they have. Unfortunately for Sparta, just not as much as they would have liked. 6 turrets to 2 in favor of SK here. Only 1 dragon for them, but at this point of the game, they just need to keep denying Soul. If they can deny Soul like this away from Sparta one more time, that might stall the game long enough to give them the ability to look for a game-winning team fight.
Yeah, definitely here. And the damage threats from SK are well and truly online as well. Ezreal is now 3 items deep, can really do a lot of damage with that poke there. And Alice Kander has gotten himself completely in the game as well, was fed early on, and now has completed that death stance for even more sustainability. Should be really difficult to actually burst on out this Irelia, even if you do manage to lock him on down. Really going to be a lot of these items favoring the side of SK. 3 items down on a lot of carries for them, while there's still only 2 for many members of SPT.
Yeah, and look at this from XDME. Second item picks up the Anathema Chains. This item is incredibly good on the champion, especially like Nautilus. Whoever is going to be named their nemesis, reduced damage, less tenacity. So all of the CC that SK has, because it's not knockups really, it's going to be quite difficult it's going to be really, really hard. And we do see that the Anathema Chains has been, in fact, put on the boost here. So the Samira is going to be that more volatile, and it will be Sparta just having to give up this dragon here as they scramble to try to get more gold into their pockets, try to get some form of map control back for themselves.
Yeah, that's going to be another Ocean's Drake in the pocket of SK. Once again, Sparta not going to be able to finish on off the Soul here. And you can see now that SK, they really have them on the ropes. They can't get their last Soul point that they really wanted to be able to keep snowballing the way that they had earlier on. And now they're really at risk of losing any of these team fights. More Sleep making ridiculous plays aside, it's just really tough to actually fight into this SK team comp. They don't have a lot of really powerful engage tools. They were hoping to keep snowballing the lead that they had early on.
Yeah, and we saw them opt to give up their first 3 bans, well, in terms of not banning the Irelia. In game 1, they banned the Irelia on blue side, and I just don't think that they expected SK to first pick it on blue side, but this champion in the hands of Alex Kander has been absolutely massive. So the amount of team fighting prowess that's being brought by him, as well as the sustain and durability, is almost too much for Sparta to handle at this point.
Definitely is. Sparta really going to have to hope for some kind of crazy pick, hoping to actually be able to spot on out More Sleep in advance, but it looks like Solo Lane might actually be the one getting picked on off here. Nice use of the miss to keep himself safe, though. Should be able to avoid going on down towards that Evelynn. And now they do, for the first time in a long time, know where More Sleep is. We'll see what Sparta wants to do with that knowledge.
Yeah, we can kind of see that they're looking to push into the top side of the jungle here as the Baron has spawned. They know Evelynn is still on the bot side of the map somewhere, but just don't know where. And that knowledge is going to be incredibly crucial. We can kind of see here, pink wards all over their red side jungle right now, trying to have the vision that they can to deny any potential flank that happened at that 4th dragon fight. And with the Baron on the map now, it's going to be on SK to see how slow they want to play this.
All right, that is actually going to be the hook landed here onto this Nautilus. Nicely played by Muscle to go and take away that blast cone. This is a nice pick here for the side of Sparta. They will be able to get themselves a 5 versus 4 on the map here. XDME going to be down now for the next 35 seconds. Let's see what Sparta is able to do with that advantage.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to be able to, well, they want boosts to be able to reset, pick up the 3rd item, the Bloodthirster, for themselves, have that extra potential of an extra durability and shield. But Cathalus still doesn't have the 2nd item complete on this Smash, trying to go for the Night Spot, it looks like, but and actually ended up selling their Bracer in favor of going for a Kindle Gem. It looks like they're going to try and build Anathema Machines, and Solo Lane and Maple Shade are trying to fight down here now.
Yeah, this nice pickup on to Solo Lane here. More Sleep has arrived and just
God.
one-shots the Gwen. Not going to be any opportunity for Solo Lane to make anything happen here, but that's going to be Sparta seeing the Evelynn bot side. They make their move for Baron. The teleport, though, is instant from the side of Maple Shade. He's coming on through to try to interrupt this boost to success, going to delete that ultimate from the Ezreal True Shot Barrage. Not going to have any influence in this fight, and now here's the rest of SK. They say thank you for starting it on up, but we are going to be the ones to finish it. They move on into the pit and are looking to start it off this fight. Now it looks like this might be the fight here for Sparta to be able to see if they can make their way back into this game. XDB is already respawned and is coming on in. He's going to be landing the knockups there on a boost of success. Boost is already down, and now it's all up to SK to finish it on off. A double kill is earned for the side of Evelynn off of that ultimate, and that's going to be SK completing 4 kills for their side here. It's only the side of Muscle left alive, and he's just getting chased on down by Alice Kander here. SK going to be looking to try to close this one out without the Baron. The death timers are so long for the side of Sparta. They're at least going to be able to get an in-hit here as the 1v1 goes over in the favor of Alice Kander, and now here's going to be mid-in-hit taken on down. The flash engage comes on through onto Solo Lane. They're trying to make sure that there's going to be no members of Sparta left alive to be able to stop this push from coming on through, but even if Solo does end up surviving, what can he really do here? Another wave of minions is already appearing for the side of SK. It looks like they're going to be able to close this one out, Trajan.
Yeah, and then, again, just at certain points, the scaling from SK came into favor here. Oh, they could pick up a shutdown. I don't know if the game's over here yet.
Might be the opportunity here that Sparta was waiting for. They come on in, they channel the Inferno Trigger. They're going to make that a double kill here for the side of Boost to Success, and Sparta just barely manages to cling to life here. We thought it was over, but it turns out they do still have a little bit left in the tank here. They've lost both of their Nexus turrets, though, and More Sleep can just walk on into the base while invisible at any time. Sparta's going to have to keep one member in the base at literally every point for the rest of this game.
Yep, but we do see here, importantly, the Ocean Dragon is coming up in 5 seconds here, and More Sleep is dead for another 15 seconds. So this is going to be a really hard dragon for the side of SK to contest, but it looks like they have to, and they're going to. Alexander and XD, they're going to get spotted out.
He's waiting. He has the Vanguard's edge. Here comes Reeve coming in from the top side. Let's look for how the Aurelia ult is. It only lands on the muscle. Red team going to finish on off the dragon. That means they have the Ocean Soul. Look at Boost's success. Look at all of the regen he has. He goes on to Reeve. He finishes him on off. Now he's going to turn on to the next target as well. It's going to be 3 more kills in the pocket of Sparta. They immediately have to send one back to prevent their Nexus from being taken on down. But they are 5 versus 2 on the map here. What can Sparta make happen now? They're going to move over towards the Baron. They're getting shadowed by More Sleep. They don't know where he is, though.
Yeah, this Evelynn is going to be the key pair. This game is going to be on More Sleep's shoulders now.
All right, here goes the engage from Mapleshade. Lands the multi-man knockup. More Sleep has shown himself and does once again 0 outboosts his success, and he does manage to escape with the ultimate as well. Not going to end up going on down. Now it's only Mapleshade left alone. Stop Aim Me, going to be the source of the damage. Going to try to finish him on off. Gets knocked back, though. He might get soloed out, though. He misses the overload, but finally the fight is finished on off, and Solo Lane has found More Sleep. He finishes him on off. Once again, 40-plus second death timers for the top laner and jungler on the side of SK. This looks like Sparta will be able to pick up this Baron.
And that was an incredibly well-played performance there. And again, True Shot Barrage is going to come out just a little too late here. XDME is going to be in the area, but is he going to try to go for anything? He can't, no?
Oh, and Stop Aim Me doesn't actually escape there off the back of the Realm War. XDB finds them recalling in the jungle, makes sure that his mid laner is going to be able to complete the recall, and then he just safeguards on out to his support. Sparta, they're trying to stay alive in this game. Trajan, they look like they are actually coming back in and being competitive. They have the Ocean Soul now for the rest of the game. They've nearly equalized the gold, only about 2k of a lead, which means pretty much nothing at 35 minutes into the game. This could go either way.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to this next fight here. And again, XDME, you don't want to be there, friend.
No, XDME finds himself caught on out once again. He's got no chance in the world. As Boost to Success just going to finish him on off. It's a 5 versus 4 and the Ocean Soul in the pocket of Sparta. They might be able to pick up a ridiculous comeback here with both of their Nexus turrets dead.
Yeah, and it's all really, again, it comes off of the fact that they were able to pick up those dragons so early in the game. They snowballed early enough down to the bot lane, had enough pressure down there with muscle, with stop aim, and were able to pick up those dragons, so they were able to delay the soul. Yes, they finally picked it up now, but because they have that Ocean Soul, they're so hard to fight. And now you can see them confidently sieging. More Sleep doesn't think they can go for any form of invade here, and you can kind of see strategically positioned are going to be control wards around that entrance to their base, so there's no way Evelynn can actually sneak into their base until that control ward gets cleared. So really good heads up play by Sparta and really good vision positioning for themselves.
Absolutely here. SK, they still have a pathway to win this game for certain, though. If More Sleep is able to get an angle here on to Boost to Success like he did in that dragon fight earlier, should be a huge deal, should enable SK to win a fight. And if SK comes out ahead in a fight, it's that simple to just waltz into the base and finish it off the Nexus. This game is incredibly close here, but the momentum is favoring the side of Sparta.
Yeah, and really what it's going to come down to is how much damage can Alexander and More Sleep do together, right? This Evelynn does have the voice staff completed, has a needlessly large ride, still has some stacks on their Dark Seal, so it's still really gold efficient for them. But Stop Aim Me on this rise has completed 3 items, has the Death Cap, has the Void Gem. This magic resist from the side of SK isn't going to mean nearly as much now because of that single item. And Solo Lane, level 18 on this Gwen, that needlework is going to do an insane amount of damage.
Yeah, More Sleep still lurking around in the opposing side, red side. Jungle hasn't found an angle as of yet, but going to be the one to keep an eye on throughout these fights. Boost to Success has played so many of these fights so incredibly well. He is able to play them the way he wants to. You got to believe he's going to continue to dominate the side of SK. It's once again all in the pocket of More Sleep.
Oh, Maple
has found Maple, but Maple is just going to stun him, just going to walk away with the Steadfast Presence, is going to manage to escape. Sparta's being pulled around the map here, but nothing quite being done for the side of SK as of yet. That's Alexander getting caught on out there. He gets kicked on in by the side of Muscle. An excellent play on the Lee Sin to insect the opposing mid laner into his team. That's going to be the pickup that Sparta was looking for. Once again, they're going to be 5 versus 4 on the map. What can they transition this into?
Honestly, they're confident now. There's not really a huge threat because they have an inhibitor up right now. They have TPs available so they can TP back to base on both of their solo laners. But yes, it does look like More Sleep is going to be going for this inhibitor, but was going to be spotted out on a ward. So it's going to be just really hard for the Evelyn to go for it. And she's going to get pinched if she's not careful.
Oh no, More Sleep gonna have to look for the escape here. Has the Banshees, so even if that death sentence did land, would be able to escape. The Banshees going to enable to immune that Flay, but now is left all alone in the base, goes back to the stealth, but gets landed on by the death sentence. Cathaldus finds the pick he was looking for, boosts his success, finishes off the opposing jungler, is going to be dead now when the Elder Drake spawns. Sparta should be able to set up for this one if they so choose.
Yeah, and that is a death that, as a jungler, you can't afford to take, right? The enemy team already has Ocean Soul. If they pick up this Elder Dragon, that is almost a game-ending fight as it is right there.
Oh, Muscle goes for the engage there onto XDME, gets stopped by the Steadfast Presence from Maple Shade. Knows that he's just going to be able to regen back there, is going to be able to stop the recall from Reeve as well. 15 seconds on the Elder Drake here. Sparta definitely has their sights on it. And SK, they don't want to give it up. They don't have a jungler, but maybe, just maybe, they could take this 4 versus 5 and still find their opportunity to contest. Gotta believe that's what's going to be necessary.
They're going to try to force the end here.
Oh, they're going to try to just come on into the mid lane. They find onto Solo Lane. Solo Lane just going to try to immune as much as he can with the mist. Is going to be able to do so. Alexander is leading the charge. They're going to just go right onto the Nexus. It is going to be, or the inhibitor rather. The recalls are coming on across from the side of Sparta, but this isn't Baron buff. This doesn't give you empowered recalls. It's going to take a long time. XDME is here interrupting the recalls in the Dragon Pit. Boost of success going to turn onto him as well, but it looks like the advance has been thwarted by the side of Sparta. SK are forced back into the Spartans' jungle. That's going to be the hook landing onto Reeve. Another pickup here for the side of Sparta. There's going to be 2 members down for the side of SK versus only 1 for the side of the Spartans. Alexander going to get caught on out here as well by the side of Cathaldus. If they are able to finish this one off, you gotta believe that the game would soon follow.
Yeah, and crucially, the inhibitor's picking up. Oh, look at More Sleep. He's just running into the base. They don't have a vision. They don't have vision.
They don't have any recalls. They don't have any empowered recalls either. The teleport from Maple Shade going to join as well. Nobody can get back here in time, Trajan. This is going to be SK finishing out the game. Spartan finds all of the opportunities to win the fights, but they leave their base open at the last possible moment. SK going to force us to a game 3.
I cannot believe what we just witnessed. Oh my God, Gordo. That game was a huge roller coaster for both teams. Ups and downs for each and every one of them. And at the very end, it came down to the fact that the Vision Ward in mid got cleared. That's single Vision Ward.
Oh, I've never seen a team that didn't want to go to a game 3 as much as Sparta did. And they're going to be going to it here. SK, they find the opportunity. They were waiting for so long with that Nexus turret, with that Nexus exposed, with both turrets down, looking for their opportunity. They continuously weren't able to find it, but finally, at the witching hour, at the very last moment, where Sparta were about to win the game. They had picked up so many kills. The death timers were so long. They had the Elder Drake in their pocket, but SK, they find the way to win, and they do it.
Yeah, and it came from that desperation play where they realized that we can't contest this Elder Dragon. We don't have a jungler for it. So instead, they go to force the inhibitor, which is the only play that they realistically can do to have a shot at ending the game. And because that inhibitor falls, and because there was no extra vision, that control ward was able to get cleared up by Neve earlier, Evelyn's just able to sneak right into the base and put down the ward. Really, really great trinket usage, by the way. Something that you don't see a whole lot of, but swapping between blue and yellow trinket on this Evelyn was incredibly effective, giving the spot for your Poppy to be able to TP to it to help end the game. If Poppy hadn't TP'd, that game didn't end there, but because of that yellow trinket, it was.
Oh, so many little things making such a big difference in that last game. We are all going to take a break here for a couple of moments, though, but we are not done for the night, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be coming right back with Game 3 as soon as possible. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Back, everybody. to the Aegis Defenders League, a matchup between Sparta and SK. I'm still reeling from the last game. I suspect Trajan is as well. My hair's in my face. This is a mess. This is a mess, Trajan, and I'm real excited to keep it going for game number 3 here.
That was a hell of a game that we were able to just witness there, Goto. Like, honestly, it was absolutely incredible watching both teams being able to play to their strengths and understand what they need to do to be able to execute and win game 3 or game 2 as we go into game 3. Excuse me.
Step 1, ban the Irelia. They're going to get off to the races with it here as Sparta are going back to the blue side, and they've decided absolutely not. We are not seeing any more of that pick from Alexander in this evening's matches. Alexander in particular is somebody I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this game because he was the shining light for SK on the Victor in game number 1 where they ended up losing. He had a great performance on Irelia in that last game. I want to see what he's going to bust out here and now.
Yeah, and we see that Sparta has opted to elect for this blue side pick. So, and with the Seraphine Kindred going to get banned away again from SK, really curious to see what they decide to pick up first here for themselves. Irelia going to be banned. They did leave the Evelyn up though, so they did think that it wasn't that big of a deal, or that they have something that could answer it. So, really curious about it because More Sleep honestly played that champion almost to perfection that game. They played incredibly well, knew how to play around the vision, were able to get some really good flanks and picks that were crucial to SK being able to even attempting to get back into the game, which eventually led to their victory.
Definitely there.
Oh.
All right, it's going to be Gangplank here, just locked on in for the side of solo lane. I don't even have Gangplank in my notes here. I don't know what that is, but there's going to be some kind of strategy assuredly coming out here for the side of Sparta, based around this pirate in the top lane.
You know, of all of the champions that could have flashed up there for Sparta, on blue side for one, I think Gangplank was probably the last one I would have ever expected to have seen.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in my top 10, wouldn't be in my top 20. It'd be quite a while until we ended up seeing that Gangplank. But maybe solo lane proves us all wrong. Maybe we find out that it's not actually Gangplank and that it's meant to be another champion. I guess we'll find out. But it is going to be the Ezreal here, locked on in here for the side of SK. And now More Sleep hovering this Nocturne. That's something we haven't gotten to see yet this series. But a nice power pick as of late. More of a jungler now than he was previously. A little bit nerfed in lane, gets a little bit less sustaining from those Umbral Blades nowadays, but could still, in theory, be a flex up in that top or mid lane as well.
Yep, still a relatively solid top laner. I mean, has really good potential. The spell shield, I mean, even into a Gangplank, you just spell shield the barrels, so you don't get slowed by them. You're able to just look for easy trades onto them for that gap closing here. But it does look like the Olaf will be hovered here by Sparta. I do really like this pick. It's a little difficult into an Ezreal pick, but you duel incredibly well into a Nocturne, and it makes it really hard for SK to draft more on a higher tank end side, like drafting an Nautilus or Thresh. It doesn't do anything against Olaf, and he'll just one-shot you anyway. But the LeBlanc is going to be locked in here for stopping me. Are they just drafting in order? Is that what we're doing here for Sparta?
Yeah, we could have just done client draft if this is how we're going to end up going with it, but it is going to be the LeBlanc locked in for Stop AME. Really a big fan of this pick. Saw some bans on it already this series, and for good reason as well. It's very lane dominant, has really powerful roaming, scales pretty all right nowadays as well. And it's going to get responded to with the Silas here from SK. So Alexander busting on out his third champion of the night, and this is the kind of pick I was hoping to see from him. This is a really independent pick, has a lot of independent power, has a lot of autonomy to make plays happen, and that's exactly what I'm going to want to see from the side of SK here.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting too, because the ultimates from Sparta actually aren't that awful right now, right? You have the Cannon Barrage, you have the Ragnarok, you have the Mimic, which can be really good or can be really bad depending on what ability LeBlanc has last used, right? But you have a lot of functional tools at your disposal, and this, with something like a Nocturne, you're able to look across the map for something that's incredibly efficient. You're going to see the Karma get picked up here as a ban. Really like that. Not super threatening. It doesn't offer a ton of CC, but against an Olaf, that's not what you want. You want utility. You want something that can keep this Ezreal as safe as possible while he kites from behind and is able to look for that here. And with Ezreal locked in, I'm really curious to see what SPT, what Sparta wants to pick up here as an ADC into this team composition. We do see the Ezreal get banned, or the Evelyn, so they do respect that the flex pick for Nocturne is still alive and could be going into one of these solo lanes, as I believe it is actually a decent matchup into Gangplank top, last I knew. I could be incorrect on that, so don't quote me on it. If you do it in solo queue and int 10 deaths to it, that's not my fault. But we do see them locking in the Nautilus again here. So XDME was looking to be incredibly proactive on the champion. The depth charge and his hooks were really, really good throughout the game. Just a couple of overextensions where we were able to get picked out that caused Sparta to be able to get some of that momentum back in game two.
Definitely agree there. Now, really curious to see what Sparta's going to want to pick for their Ezreal counter here. The Callista and the Kaisa are options that come to mind. We'll see which one of those Sparta wants to end up going for. That Leona makes me think that actually it's going to be neither. It's going to be the Tristana. It's going to be another aggressive option in the bottom lane. The one that we forget about. That's what it always is. As Boost is going to be taking this Tristana up against the Ezreal for the side of Reeve. That's Galio being hovered here. Could potentially be a little mid lane Galio, little Silas top. It's an all right matchup against Gangplank, if I'm remembering my matchups correctly. Although would be a bit of a surprise for me. Feels like there could be some other options here that you could take up there, but nah, it's going to be the Galio locked on in. So Alice Kander might be playing that Galio this time around, and it might be Maple Shade taking on out that Silas.
So this is really interesting to me, Gordo, because SK's opted to draft a really CC heavy composition this time around, right? They want to be looking to lock down the champion pool from the side of Sparta, but Sparta has an Olaf, right? Muscle is just going to ignore them and run straight past them. So it's going to be. I'm curious to see how these team fights are going to play out. Are they going to be able to burst Olaf down quick enough, or is he going to be able to sustain so much through these team fights with the Ragnarok that it's going to be impossible for them to actually lock him down and get that kill?
Yeah, that is certainly something to keep in mind here. For anybody just tuning in here, it is 1-1. SK does have that one win that they picked up in game number 2. There we go, showing back up on the screen now as Sparta going to be looking here to see if they are going to be able to come back to their winning ways from game number 1, close on out this series, or if SK are going to pull out that reverse sweep and end up taking the W here. Riven, of course, has been banned all 3 games. Unfortunate, as both of these top laners are both keen to pick that one up. But going to be an interesting matchup this time around with a Gangplank up against a Silas. Certainly not something you get to see every day in the top lane.
Yeah, 2 champions that well, one has definitely fallen out of favor. Silas has been incredibly strong throughout this entire season. Just was on the receiving end of a nerf this patch, actually. So not quite as much healing availability from his Kingslayer. Scaling not quite as good, but still a really, really strong dominant pick. And the pattern of good ultimates available for Maple Shade to take kind of continues, right? We started off with the Gangplank, LeBlanc, and the Olaf, but we're gonna wrap things up really, really nicely here with the bot lane for the side of Sparta. So it's going to be really defining to see what ultimates the Silas is able to kind of take available to them. And really, the other thing too that's I like from the side of SK is they have a really good wombo potential. The Nocturne Galio ult is incredibly dangerous. Denying the vision and then just being able to instantly get into the backline means that Sparta has to be incredibly careful with how they play these fights. Stop AME is going to be looking for these flanks, but the flanks are really hard when the best target you can really find potentially is an Ezreal, right?
Yeah, that's certainly true, but also important to keep in mind that Sparta does have very mobile carries. It's going to be very difficult to actually make that Galio Nocturne ultimate combo end up working out here because a LeBlanc or a Tristana, they're just going to dash on out of there. Olaf going to be able to ult you away. Gangplank has oranges, although that won't help too much against the Galio knockup. But it's going to be really tough to actually lock these guys on down. So really want to see if they're going to be able to navigate these fights with their Ezreal, with their Silas, with these heavy skirmishers that they have to actually be able to get on to the Tristana, to be able to get onto the Blanc and end up finishing them on off. And as you alluded to earlier, The Olaf also always going to be the big X factor in these, because if he just Ragnaroks and runs right through your team, gets right onto that Ezreal and tries to burst him out, you need to have answers to that. And the only answer that is really going to be available for the side of SK, and the only answer that ever is available against a Ragnaroking Olaf, is to do enough damage to get him down before he can actually kill you in turn.
Yeah, and with Gore Drinker available to him, it's going to be really hard, I'll be honest, especially because from the team comp of SK, they, like, 4 of their champions just want to be in the middle of everyone, right? And if Olaf gets a 4-person Gore Drinker heal, he's going to go to full health, and it's going to be really, really hard, especially because you have to burn through his health bar twice, right? And at that point, the rest of Sparta are going to be able to kind of do what they want. Now, Sparta has a ton of zone control with the Cannon Barrage, with the Solar Flare, and it's going to be really interesting as they kind of adapt to these team fights, because I don't think in a 5 like, you don't want to take necessarily a full 5v5 team fight against SK. You want to be able to kite backwards, wait for them to over aggress with an engage, and then counter engage, right? Sparta shouldn't really ever be the ones looking to start the team fight.
No, they certainly should not be here. And well, I'm really curious to see how this early game is going to end up going here for the side of Sparta. We've seen that they've been able to consistently get early game leads throughout this series, but later on, as it comes into the team fights, SK have been able to claw their way back pretty often here, been able to get some excellent team fighting around Dragons in particular to keep themselves alive in these games and to even come out with the win in game number 2. But the early game in particular is a really big deal for the side of Sparta here. They have great roams here on this LeBlanc, although it is going to have a little bit of a tougher time up against the Galio. But Boost of Success and Cathalos have been great in the 2 versus 2. They have a great matchup here. As long as they don't get punished too harshly by Nocturne and Galio, they should be set up for success here.
Yep, and it's going to be really important for the side of Sparta to be communicating these roams, and level 6 is going to be when you see a lot of fireworks flying. Fully expect to see commits in the bot lane, dives coming in with Nocturne Galio. It's going to be really, really hard for Boost and Cathalos to stay alive without extra support for themselves down there.
All right, and with all that said, we are going to throw it to a break here. Going to be our last one of the night. So we are going to be looking to see who is going to end up taking this series. Will it be Sparta? Will it be SK? We will find out as soon as we're back from this quick break. Welcome back, everybody, to Game 3 here in the Aegis Defenders League, week number 2 between Sparta and SK. And oh boy, Trajan, what a banger a couple of had already tonight. They have been so close. They've been coming down to single team fights here, and this one might come down to a level 1. Looking at this big stack coming through from the side of Sparta.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to try to go for a bot side tri-bush invade, but it does look like Reeve is positioned in a really, really good spot here to be able to catch that out. First thing I noticed, Gordo, take a look at LeBlanc's starting item. Stop Me has opted to go for a Cull.
Yeah, that's a spicy one. Sparta, I guess, just knowing that Stopping Me knows that he's really got no choice but to just kind of farm it on out in this game up against the Galio. LeBlanc should not really have any kill pressure in that lane. And I guess just wants, a little bit of AD should be good to last hit under turret. And she's certainly going to be spending some time under turret here up against this Galio, clearing waves with that Winds of War. And get a little bit extra gold to boot. I kind of like it. It's a cute idea.
Yeah, I really, really do, especially since, like, it's going to be hard for Galio to really, force that extra trade damage out of you. Hold on, we have a late invade coming in.
Delayed invade from Muscle and his bottom lane, looking to try to contest onto this blue buff. Alexander is the first one on the move here, looking to back on up his jungler, make sure that this blue buff is going to be able to be secured. Does look like Muscle is going to end up being forced on out here. He's going to be super late to his jungle start here. That's a win for the side of SK. More Sleep should be well and truly ahead in this jungle matchup as a result of this level 1. That is going to be quite the play from the side of SK. They thwart that jungle invade and certainly are going to be feeling pretty good about it as a result. As we're going to get into this bottom lane, get it started on off. Boost is success. Should be auto pushing this lane on the Tristana. Should certainly be a good advantage for them here. And they are actually going to just stop hitting the wave here, looking to maybe try to zone them off a little bit on the part of this Leona. It's definitely going to be nice little advantage for the side of Sparta. And let's take a look in on how this jungle matchup is going. You can see More Sleep is already a little bit ahead on the clear, about 1 camp ahead. Maybe call it about half a camp here due to that level 1 shenanigans going on down or earlier. Muscle going to take a little bit longer to get caught on up, and they are also both pathing towards the top side. That does mean that it is going to end up going to be a fight over the Scuttler, you've got to believe, although More Sleep maybe will be a little bit later to this. He's moving on over towards his buff. Should have a little bit of a camp lead, but maybe not exactly a level lead when he's going to actually be facing off against Muscle. Might not actually have too much of an advantage going into that Scuttle Crab. Of course, there's going to be Solo Lane, who has gone in for the recall earlier on, and is also always going to be Alexander with the priority in that middle lane. That should mean that Scuttler should always be right for the pick and for the side of More Sleep, but actually does turn out that More Sleep is going to head over towards the bottom side instead, and is going to go for that bottom Scuttler.
Yeah, that's a really interesting decision by both junglers. They were expecting either one to be there to contest that top Scuttle, so now they're going to just make their way to the bot one here. But unfortunately, it does look like More Sleep was able to beat Muscle down here because they didn't elect to go for a reset yet, which means that this Olaf's time at Muscle just going to have wasted a little bit. So actually going to go for the Krugs instead, and then maybe transition that into something bot here, potentially trying to stop More Sleep from looking for anything. But here we go.
Yeah, the engage comes on through from XDMe. They were not expecting More Sleep to be here. The flash forward comes on through. It's going to be met with a flash in Kaldis' turn. That will, in fact, keep him alive here. Now, here comes the rocket jump in from Boosted Success, trying to get in onto Reed. Does look like XDMe is going to instead be the target here. He does still have access to the flash. Is going to use the flash forward from Muscle to try to finish on off. That execute is not going to come across, and that does look like both sides are going to end up surviving.
Yeah, Solo Lane getting a bit of a poke here up on the Maple Shade, getting really low.
Yeah, very low on both sides here, but doesn't actually seem like anyone's going to end up going down. They got their W's, respectively, Kingslayer and those oranges going to keep them on up. Also now going to take advantage of that little fight win for his side of the bottom side. Going to steal away this Gromp, try to equalize the camps a little bit. That was crazy, by the way. You could see that Sparta very clearly thought that More Sleep had just cleared away that top camp, although actually, as I'm saying that, Maple Shade and Solo Lane once again going at it. A nice dodge from Solo Lane going to keep him alive for the time being. But as I was saying, More Sleep, they thought that he had taken the topside Scuttler. The topside Scuttler is still alive, actually. Nobody's taken it because More Sleep switched over his pathing towards the bottom to get that bot lane gank off.
Yeah, just a little bit of I won't say an error, just a really funny thought process from both junglers, kind of on that same track and trying to adapt themselves accordingly based on that. It just so happened they both were ended up on the same track again, so it resulted in that Crab just kind of sit there a little lonely for a while now. But Alexander has been really good at making sure that this top side of his river's been warded to really deny any potential for Muscle to come in through there, as well as any roams from Solo Lane, since on the GP we'll always have the push on the Maple Shade, like we kind of mentioned.
Yeah, no, this first Scuttler is going to end up going down at 6 minutes, an eternity in Scuttle Crab time. And will finally end up going down to the side of a Muscle. Goodbye, buddy. You were with us a lot longer than most will be, but is finally going to end up going down as a result. And it looks like there might be a top lane gank to boot. This Muscle is pathing on around. Has a big wave crash in here. This could be an opportunity. Though Maple Shade does have access to the ultimate, could steal away a cannon barrage. And now has found himself behind the side of Solo Lane, going for an aggressive trade here. Steals away the ultimate, but not going to be able to finish it on and off.
Yeah, taking a lot of damage there from minions, as well as the grasp of the Undying from Solo Lane. Just means that it's going to be hard for Maple Shade to look for these extended trades. We did see he did opt to go for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity first item, just trying to pull his abilities off of the cooldown just that much faster here. But because Muscle was on the top lane, did spend a lot of time up there, the first dragon will be picked up by SK this game, and we do see an Infernal Dragon will be our second dragon of the game, so we're either going to be looking at a Cloud or an Ocean Soul. Both souls that if you're on the side of Sparta, you're happy to see both, but
X-Flash engage from the side of Cathaldis is going to net first blood to the side of Sparta. Nice engage there on XDME, taking advantage of the flash that they blew earlier on, taking advantage of the Hex flash that they've spec'd into for this Leona, and now they're going to look to push on into the opposing side's blue side jungle. They're going to get themselves another Gromp as a result. Nicely played by the side of Sparta. They get themselves a big lead through the bottom lane.
Yeah, they're really doing what they can to kind of accelerate this lead for Muscle, but Muscle is caught between two people now.
Oh, and there's the ultimate coming through, going to make it 3. Aliskander going to pick himself up that kill as well. Disrespecting the heroic entrance from SK's Galio means that they're actually going to net a kill right back onto their side, and Aliskander going to be the one who ends up picking that one up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Alexander just, well, not unfortunately, but Muscle had the Ragnarok available, just chose not to use it in that moment, perhaps thinking that they could get away, but the fear from Nocturne plus the knockup from Alexander was more than enough to pick up the kill.
Yeah, and that's going to be a lot of damage dished out onto that LeBlanc. You can see this is just why that matchup favors the Galio so heavily here. The last-minute decision to flex that Silas into the top lane from the side of SK, paying off dividends there as this Galio mid lane really shutting down the LeBlanc early on and also getting some pressure across the map.
Yeah, being able to deny the any assassin to roam is a huge win, right? So Galio being able to continue to exert this pressure and have the roaming potential himself, right? Heroic entrance is absolutely massive. Being able to be anywhere on the map is really, really crucial, especially being able to have a really bursty assassin like the LeBlanc, and even the Gangplank, the Cannon Barrage, it does magic damage. Galio's ultimate grants a shield against magic damage, so it's a really, really well thought out pick here from SK that's going to end. It's already paying dividends for them.
Certainly is here. So now is going to be a gold lead in the side of Sparta. They got about 1.5k in their favor. So they've got a little CS lead across pretty much all the lanes. The biggest one is Boost in that bottom lane, has about 20 over the side of Reeve as a result of that early kill they were able to get, and just a little bit of matchup difference between the Tristana and the Ezreal. Now we got more sleep. Is lurked himself up into the top lane. Is going to have Paranoia up very shortly. Might be looking for a play here on a solo lane.
Yep, is sitting on the ward though, so probably is going to channel the recall. Not going to look for anything too huge. Oh, but Muscle is here, so this could be just a straight 2v2, unless they both decide to back off here.
Yeah, not even sure they're 100% sure that More Sleep is there as he was lurking in the bush. Oh, never mind, they got a ward in there. They knew that More Sleep was there the whole time. So, just a big old bait from the side of solo lane, just wasting More Sleep's time. Still, though, he is still waiting there, though. They didn't expect him to hang around the entire time, and that means the ultimate plus the Duskbringer are going to come on across and going to finish off the kill on a solo lane through his flash. SK going to get themselves up another kill. Now they're going to move towards this Rift Herald as well. They've got Aliskander and XDME already here for the backup.
Yep, and we can kind of see here, Stop Amy has the Lost Chapter, has Boots 1, feeling pretty confident, but on the flip side, Alexander has the Mercury Treads completed, so this LeBlanc isn't going to be doing that much damage here, but Tristana might.
Yeah, now here he comes. Boosted success, looking to burst down onto XDME once again. Muscle going to be the one who ends up picking up that kill. Actually, that was Aliskander. That wasn't XDME at all. So that's going to be another kill in the pocket of Sparta there. They pick off the mid laner, and that is, instead of the support, even better. So that's going to be another pickup here for the side of Sparta. They should be feeling very good about their position in this game.
Yep, and well, if we look at it, Stop Amy, 3 minions away, about to finish that call off, about to get a huge influx of gold and finish that mythic item a bit faster here. And that kill getting picked up by Muscle is actually huge here, by the way. Like, an Olaf wants to get a lead. An Olaf without a lead is really, really in a bad spot here. And we can kind of see XDME is looking for a potential dive onto Boost, but Boost doesn't have the Buster Shot, but has Heal, Flash, and their jump available, so not going to quite commit to that.
Yeah, that's definitely one way of putting it. Is now it is going to be the engage coming through onto Stop Aim Me. Looking to finish off onto him is Aliskander. That's actually going to be the focus onto the clone, though. More Sleep makes the wrong call about which LeBlanc is the real one. That means they're not actually going to be able to picking up a kill off of that mid lane engage, as now we can see Reeve continuing to pressure onto this bottom lane as well. Muscle now moving forward onto more Sleep, looking to keep the fight going on, is trying to finish him off onto this Nocturne, taking him down incredibly low, and is going to be able to do so. Flashes away from the ultimate Galio as well, saves himself a little bit longer. Actually, a nice Blast Cone play going to get him over the wall, going to keep him alive. Meanwhile, Stop Aim Me jumps on and finishes off Alexander as well. Muscle has not taken damage for a while, but is actually going to not get the second turret shot. He's still alive. I thought this man was dead twice already in this fight, Trajan, and he's just still running on out of there. It looks like he's going to make it all the way back to the base.
Are you kidding me? Muscle has defied all expectations in a situation where almost any other jungler in that position, they would have died. But not Muscle. Muscle found a way out of there and went, I'm going to take it, and was able to escape with his life. Has 2 kills now, finishes the Gourd Drinker ahead of his counterpart in the jungle, and is feeling really, really strong right now.
I'm shocked, Trajan. I had no idea how he managed to escape that. Just some nice use of the Blast Cone, some nice use of the Flash. I guess we were talking about why you take Flash over Ghost on Olaf in between the game there. That's certainly a reason. That's how the engage is going to be coming out over this Dragon. A nice Flash out from the side of Cathaldus, going to keep him alive for the time being. And more Sleep just ends up going on down towards the Ignite, plus the explosive shot from Tristana. Blue team going to pick up that Dragon as well. Now going for the engage onto Reeve, who is just going to shift over the wall. Scanner Justice punches his way on out, is going to be able to survive for the time being, but Sparta are the ones who end up taking the lead in the fight. They get the kill, they get the Dragon. They are still in the lead in this game, so they look to continue to pressure onto this bottom lane. They have the Rift Herald. They should probably be dropping it pretty soon.
Yep. Unfortunately, though, Cathaldus is very, very low, so not going to be able to stay for this, so it will be a 2v2 in the bot lane, but XDME getting incredibly low from that explosive shot. Oh my god.
Explosive shot plus undertow does a lot of damage. As it's going to be the force back from XDME once again. Still is going to manage to save his life for the time being, but more plate gold going over into the pocket of Boost just before those plates end up falling down. Nice use of the Herald there by Sparta.
Yep, and Boost. Reeve doesn't have Flash.
Oh, but the exhaust going to be enough to keep him alive there. Nicely played by Reeve to save his life for the time being, but it is going to be a summoner spell expended for virtually nothing from the side of Boost. Now Boost wants to get onto this turret, but more Sleep is there. Not going to feel comfortable going in any farther. Alexander actually does not have access to the teleport or the heroic entrance, so maybe Boost could afford to stay a little bit longer, but he's just going to farm it on out, look to take the turret. Eventually, he knows he'll be able to. So here's an engage onto Cathaldus. Has not managed to proc the Aftershock quite yet. Now he's going to be able to stay alive a little bit longer. A nice Solar Flare going to lock on down Alexander and XDME. And look at this Olaf damage. Alexander flashes on away, is alive for the time being, but XDME, he's going to flash as well. Should not be able to survive for very long. Muscle is going to be able to end up taking him down. Now LeBlanc is on the hunt for Alexander, going to flash forward, going to finish him on off as well. And more Sleep uses the Paranoia, but isn't able to get the trade kill on back. 2 kills for none in the pocket of Sparta.
Yeah, and Sparta's just playing the comp that they want to right now. They're playing the game that they want to. SK, they are really, really scattered. They need to play to their ultimate cooldowns and be able to look for these really strong engages, look for these picks, but at the same time, Muscle is so far ahead right now that he can really just do whatever he wants. We kind of saw there. Alexander and XDME both just melted to him. This Olaf is level 10, almost level 11, so the level 2 in Ragnarok means he's going to be even tankier, but top lane, solo lane's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, solo lane going to try to flash on away there, trying to stay alive up against more Sleep, and Maple Shade here is going to be able to do so, and now once again, Muscle shows up just in time to make the hero play, turns it into another kill for himself on the Olaf here, and he wants even more. Stop Aim Me is coming on through as well, going to land that chain there onto Alexander, but he's pretty tanky on this Galio, should be able to survive for the time being. Justice punches back on in for a little bit of pressure. There's the hook, but it's not onto the target you want. It is in fact onto Muscle, who is going to deal a lot of damage right back to you. And now here comes the delayed dive. 3 versus 2 under this top lane turret. XDME gets bursted out in an instant. Pretty much gets to have no influence here. A double kill once again goes over to the Olaf. Ooh, the True Shot Barrage almost takes Muscle on down, but isn't quite going to be enough.
Yeah, and an 8,000 gold lead right now, 16 and a half minutes into the game. Sparta is in a commanding position now. Everything has gone to the way that they want them to. The champions that want to get a lead have gotten a lead early. Your assassins are online. You have the Magi's purchased right now, 7 stacks on it. Stop Aim Me is really, really just itching to look for a fight.
Yeah, there's going to be the Hex Flash coming through from Cathaldus. Not going to be able to find a target here. presence is known, so probably isn't going to be able to find too much on Reef here. But as you said, Trajan, all of this gold has been funneled into Muscle. We were talking about what can you burst out the Olaf before he bursts you out is just how these Olaf games end up going. And now that he's 6-1-1, the answer is more often than not going to be no.
Yeah, I mean, he has 2/3 of Steric's gauge completed already. At what point are you going to be able to fight an Olaf with a Gore Drinker and Steric's gauge that's running at you and you cannot CC him?
The answer is late game, and you're not going to get that far at this rate because SK are just massively behind in the game. They're about 6K down, as you said. Actually, that looks like 8K. That's 8K, baby. That's a lot much more than I previously thought. And 30 seconds until this next dragon here. There's no way SK can contest this. If you're SK, you just got to sit back for a little bit, hope that you can take some more time to scale here, or you just got to find a free pick on to boost to success.
Oh my God.
In which case, you're going to get a big shutdown. You're going to funnel that right into your Ezreal, and just like that, you're going to get your first step towards coming back a little bit.
That was an incredible hook by XCME, continuing to really show that they know what they want to look for on the champion. So really, really good pickup there for SK, trying to narrow that gold advantage just a little bit. The margins are maybe small, but anything they can get is going to be worth it. Oh my God.
Oh, XDME takes so much damage there from the LeBlanc. Here comes the Paranoia coming on across, but Olaf does not care. Olaf pops the Ragnarok, finishes on off the Nocturne, and now is going to look to finish on off, or actually finishes the Nautilus, looks to finish off the Nocturne as well. Not going to be able to do so, though. That's another big shutdown going over to the side of SK. We've seen this song and dance before, Trajan, and SK, I almost believe they might be able to make a comeback happen, given how the rest of this series is gone. They're going to move on to this Dragon now as well, looking to get themselves up 2-1 in that objective.
Yeah, we can see there the clone has already been knocked out here by Stop Amy. Doesn't have that available, but they get incredibly low.
Oh, Elscanner, though, he's turning it back around. He's trying to finish it off on Stop Amy. Not going to be able to do so, though. Boost of success, gets the reset, jumps on over, finishes it off onto more sleep, and now Reeve just looking to get himself back. Anything flashes forward. Essence shifts forward as well, trying to finish off Stop Amy. Not going to be able to do so. And here's Boost of success. Rocket jumps over the wall, going to pick himself up. His third kill of the fight, the unofficial triple, goes into the pocket of the Sparta 80 carry. And now they're going to look to pick up that dragon as well. Meanwhile, Solo Lane, he just walks out into the mid lane and says, "I'll take that tower, please." And he is very pleased with that one as well.
Yeah, and honestly, like the whole part of that started with Muscles kind of running into 3 people and letting an Ezreal with Divine Sunder free hit on you. It was honestly really, really bad. But at the end of the day, SK wasn't able to reset before the dragon was going to spawn, so they were forced to try to make a play for this without having spent any other gold. So the gold lead was even larger than what we saw when we were looking at them as they were fighting. Look at Ezreal right now. He was sitting on Sunder in a tier. Now he's a Caulfield's Warhammer and an extra longsword. Almost has that Mirror fully completed. So it was just that dragon call was kind of a tipping point there, where it looked like SK were getting a little desperate, trying to force things on the map.
Yeah, definitely were there. And unfortunately, that just means that Sparta, or unfortunately for SK at least, very fortunately for the side of Sparta, they're going to look like they're going to be able to close this one out if they keep at this current rate. It's still going to be a little while longer until they can actually bust on through the base itself, but at 20 minutes, that Baron has already spawned, and with this big of a gold lead, you got to believe that Sparta have their eyes towards that objective to be able to snowball out this game the way that they want to.
Well, if I'm Sparta, I'm yelling at Muscles right now. I'm yelling at my team going, we take this now. We force this.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just so massively far ahead that they should want to fight. Like they'll win every single fight, assuming that they play it intelligently here. That's going to be the 80 carries spotting each other out in the mid lane here. Stop Aim, Me, and Alexander are over here on the side lanes. Both do have access to their teleports now, as Alexander does come on off cooldown. Nobody's starting up this Baron quite yet, Trajan. It looks like they're giving it a little bit of time to breathe for the time being, just trying to clear on out vision, make sure that they have everything in place to be able to have a successful Baron experience.
Yeah, they're really trying to secure as much vision as they can right now. And as we kind of take a look here, it does look like the Herald still is available for Muscle. Looking to really wanting to use this to try to pressure to a lane, just any lane that they can, would be really, really great. We see it someone here in the mid lane. They're going to try to look to siege this tier 2 down.
Yeah, I wonder if they even just try to go for this dive here, as there goes the crash from the Rift Herald. Is just going to be a little bit of harass damage coming on across. They don't really use it to start it off the Baron. They don't really use it for too much. They just wanted to make sure that they could at least get the charge on off. And now, once again, you can see Sparta just looks a little bit lost here. They have a substantial lead in the game, but they don't seem to know where to go next while they're waiting for the next dragon to spawn.
Yeah, they're playing very, very hesitant right now. And with a champion like Olaf, you can't really afford to do that. You need to be looking to force things on the map, which, to be fair, SK's comp, if you force into them, it's almost always going to spell disaster, so they have to be careful, right?
Yeah, certainly do. Stop, Amy, and Alexander are trading in the side lanes here. LeBlanc, though, has some items in her pocket, and the Galio doesn't really itemize for magic resist in this day and age, so can actually deal damage back now, even though it is a counter matchup. And just like that, Boost and Success and Muscle are going to be looking to start on up this Baron as a two-man. They've got solo lane here for the backup as well. And it does look like the are going to be able to burst it on through on their own. No vision is available for the side of SK, but there, now they know it is going down. They throw it on over with the blue trinket. XDME is here, but it looks like the jungler is just too far away. Here comes the ultimate from the Nocturne. Going to be too little too late, though, as now Morsleep finds himself engaged on very far away. Here comes the heroic entrance coming through from Alexander. The fight is 5 versus 5, and that does not favor the side of SK, as Sparta is just rampaging through this fight. They have their fed Olaf. They have their whole team here. They have the resets on the rocket jump. Boosted Success flashes forward to get the very last kill. It gets spell shielded on by Morsleep, but Sparta have dominated this fight. They've picked up the Baron, and they're going to crack open the base here, Trajan.
Yeah, Soul and Stop Aim are going so deep into SK's space right now, just trying to prevent Morsleep from being able to do anything there. And that was what they wanted to do. Sparta were able to force SK to overextend into a fight that they couldn't respond to in time. By the time Morsleep casted Paranoia and made his way over to that Baron pit and tried to ult in, one, his team was in no position to be able to follow up, so it had to be a steal, but two, the Baron was gone before he even finished channeling. So it was really, really well played out by Sparta, knowing that they can start this Baron up really quickly because they have the power in Tristana and Olaf here. And because of that fight, if we look at it, this LeBlanc, 19 stacks on the Medjais, double Needlessly Large Rod, almost has a full Rabadon's Death Cap completed. This LeBlanc is going to one-shot anyone on the side of SK because they haven't had time to scale.
Yeah, I know, and that time is not coming any closer here. 12k gold in the favor of Sparta here. They've got another dragon spawning up here shortly, and we know they're going to be there and ready to fight for it. SK should be forced to just give this one on away. Alexander positioning a little bit aggressively there, but he's not going to be able to make anything happen, not at this rate. Should be another dragon going over to the side of Sparta.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't afford to do it at this point. I mean, look at Step. He's just hunting right now for Maple, who is going to show in division here.
Yeah, it is going to be coming on in on the side of Maple Shade, but not actually going to be able to get any lockdown. Here comes Morsleep popping the Paranoia, trying to get the pickup here, but the ulti is blown here from Stop Amy to get a little bit more distance away. Spell Shield does not work like that, man. You're still going to get rooted on under the turret, and that means that Morsleep almost ends up going down. Meanwhile, on the side lane, Sparta is just taking everything here. They've picked on up the Dragon. They picked on up the inner turn in the bottom lane. They're going to look to keep this siege going here up into the Nexus, and now look at Stop Amy. He's 1 versus 3. Sparta, these members just can't die this game, Trajan. First it was Muscle and that extended Dragon Blade, and now Stop Me in a 1 versus 3, dodges every single skill shot and just walks away while his team takes the base.
That was absolutely insane. Being able to delay the backstairs absolutely massive here. Ragnarok is going to get popped a little early, though, I think.
Ooh, it's a 4 versus 5. Stop Amy does not have access to the teleport. This might be the fight that SK is looking for. Maple Shade going to be chunked out incredibly low right away, though. Muscle is so big on this Olaf. Keep your eyes on him. Keep your eyes on these undertows. He's going to be throwing on out here. Second inhibitor is claimed for the side of Sparta, and they realize, like, hey, you know, we're only 4. We don't have to take these disadvantaged fights. We can just walk away, but here comes Paranoia coming on through. SK sees their opportunity. They want to take this fight in the 5 versus 4. Boosted Success going to get locked on down here by the side of the Silas. He might end up being taken down. He rocket jumps away, does manage to stay alive for the time being. Now Stop Me has arrived, goes in onto the Nocturne, is going to finish off that kill. Now look at the rest of the team. Look at Muscle in the 1 versus 3. He's regenerating so much there with the Gourd Drinker, stays alive with the Sterix, and now the Execute comes on through from Stop Me. He has arrived from basing earlier on. He gets paid off for surviving in the earlier fight, picks up a double kill for himself here, and Sparta are going to close on out this game and close on out the series. They will be our first team here to go up 2-0. SK going to have to settle for 1-1.
What an incredibly dominating performance from Sparta in this 3rd game of the series. They went, you know what? We're just going to play to everything that we need to, and that was absolutely massive. Really, really fantastic performance from both teams tonight. But Sparta able to really just kind of snowball that lead game three and really kind of show what happens when an Olaf gets ahead.
Yeah, excellent performance there. It was looking a little shaky for a couple of moments, but Sparta do manage to secure the win there. They carry their lead all the way through and they close it on out. And now we do have Muscle here joining us for a little bit of an interview. Muscle, have we got you, my man?
Yeah, what's up?
How is it going? Congratulations on your win, first and foremost. How are you feeling about that series, all in all?
It was all right. It was really fun. The first two games were really long. We just trolled the second one, and then the third game was nice because I was just super fed and didn't die.
Yeah, what was going through your head there up in that play where you literally escaped with less than 20 health?
Oh, that was like really cool, I guess. Usually when I like walk through turrets, I always take two tower shots. So I got really hyped when I only took one. You can ask my teammates, but like yeah, I was like jumping up and down after I only took one tower shot.
Yeah, it was. I thought you were taking the second turret shot too, my man, but really well played there, and ending up with the escape. And in that game number two in particular, SK were able to come back. It looked like you were going to come back in turn. SK ended up closing it out in the end. It looked like a lot of that could be attributed to More Sleep's Evelyn. You guys ended up not banning that out in the first rotation in game number three. Did you have something prepared to face off against it, or did you just not think they were going to end up picking it?
Uh, I did not. I was just like, whatever. I don't think it was like super good. It was just the back door at the end because we forgot a pink word. So, and we were just like over chasing. But other than that, like it wasn't really that good. Actually, he had that one good play at the drag fight that turned the game. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't think it was a good pick.
All right.
Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, she's been a champion that doesn't really see a ton of meta play. There's only a few people who selectively play her, even at the professional level. Just a really interesting champion. But what made you decide to want to lock in something like the Olaf as early as you did, in game three?
Where did was that the second pick for us?
It
Yeah,
was
second
it was
rotation
two,
on blue
yeah.
side.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, so I mean, we saw the Nocturne, I think, and then I was just like, cool, I'll just play Olaf and like destroy him, I guess. Yeah, that was really it.
All right, all right. And now you guys have started on off at 2-0 in this group. Pretty much the best start you can hope for here. Where do you see Sparta going for the rest of this tournament?
That was like our fourth series together, including scrims. So I think we're at like 50% potential, maybe even lower. Our mid game kind of sucks, which is why games take so long. So we'll just work to clean that up and then win games faster and easier.
All right, we're gonna finish on off here in just a moment, but just to finish on off before we let you go, Muscle, you got anybody you want to shout on out here before we call it an evening?
My support, he's a beast, and Boost, he's all right. Other than that, no.
All right, Muscle. Thanks for joining us for tonight's interview. Congratulations again on the 2-0 start for yourself and your squad. Thank you to everybody for tuning on in tonight. And from myself, Trajan, and production, have a great night.
Yeah, you too.